Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the national anthem of ROSBERGia.
So, are we allowed to sit down now?
I think so.
Oh, good. Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Dan. Chris.
So, Lee, which of the two things that happened on Sunday are you crying about?
No.
Is it Jensen retiring?
No, I don't want to talk about
It was the manners hitting each other.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Come on, big guy. Be strong.
No.
Be strong.
No, there's nothing to be strong for anymore.
He's in a better place.
No, that's
Woking.
what they said about my dog.
No, anywhere that isn't the seat of this year's McLaren is a better place.
That's probably
That's
true.
actually a good, really good point. Yeah. I mean, even if he's doing triathlons in Scotland next year, he's in a better place.
Which is what they said about my dog.
What,
Doing
your dog went to
triathlons in
triathlons?
Scotland.
Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
Jensen's gone to an F1 team in the country where there's other cars that he can chase and catch.
Right.
That's very good.
That's the funniest thing you've ever said.
That's the most backhanded compliment I think you've ever given.
Right, should we do a preview? Yes.
Yeah, we'll do a preview. Right, so
Preview.
2017.
Preview. A review is what I meant to say.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, obviously, congratulations to NICO ROSBERG for taking the driver's title.
We take
Whatever.
We take the piss out of him for his unhuman responses to things, but we can't take a championship away from a man.
Do you know what?
He is the champion. That's the way it is. So
when he was on the
congratulations.
podium, and you could see, there was a moment when, like before Coulthard went back to him to speak to him, you could see it hit him what he'd achieved.
He's looking at him in the crowd,
yeah. And but when he was talking then about his dad, he said, "Oh, my dad will be coming here now. It'd be nice to see him." It was so nice to see what I would consider a human reaction out of that fucking robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually managed to turn public persona Rosberg off, and we actually did get a glimpse of the real Nico Rosberg, and there is hope for him yet.
I did hear an interesting thing actually, which was on the BBC podcast where they were talking about Nico Rosberg.
The second best Formula One podcast.
Second best Formula One part. Well, it's not. Yeah, it's second best because it's only on for 20 minutes.
Well, there you go.
Not even trying.
Nope.
BBC not even trying with Formula One. You've got to be kidding.
Yeah. We'll get to that a bit later on, I think. Yeah.
But
if we could be bothered.
Anyway, the commentator, I think, it wasn't the commentator, it was one of the guys that does the BBC thing, said like he'd been, he said, I've been in Formula One, I've been involved in the circuit since Rosberg came in. He said, and there was always this thing with him where people thought he was too nice, a bit like Johnny Herbert. You know, they thought he was too nice to
not ruthless enough.
Yeah. And they said what the way he's gone about himself is to compartmentalize the various aspects of his life, so he can just have a racing persona and an outside of Formula One persona.
Yeah.
And it did. Listening to somebody say that, it did make me understand why he's such an insufferable twat on the television. You're in race weekends.
Is it for the same reason that Andy Murray, tennis personality, is not so much of a personality?
Well,
in front of the
he's
cameras?
basically Kimi Räikkönen in tennis form, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah, but he loves playing tennis. He hates sitting down and talking to the media because he can't be bothered.
Yeah.
And he's got that, like Lee said then, like compartmentalization, which is so in Formula One you've got racing Rosberg, which we've been taking the piss out of, but for a while we saw human Rosberg. And that was nice.
Yeah.
And I said to everybody on our chat thing, I think I said it on Saturday, and then said it again yesterday when we were doing the live blog, that that Nico Rosberg title is more than just a Nico Rosberg World Championship, because so many people, us included, had him down as quite a firm number 2 driver. Not official, but number 2 driver at Mercedes after Lewis pretty much wiped the floor with him in 2015. And that's happened to many drivers in the past.
When they don't recover from it.
But they don't recover yet. And I'm thinking Mark Webber, Felipe Massa. I'm thinking
Rubens
Barrichello, David Coulthard.
Rubens Barrichello, even to the point where when he was actually given equal footing in a car that could win a championship,
he was told to slow down.
He still couldn't recover.
He didn't know what to do with it, because all he knew was
being the number 2 driver.
What are my orders? Who am I blocking?
Yeah. And that was a championship, not just for Nico Rosberg, but for all those guys as well, who had a sniff at a title, and at Eddie Irvine as well, because Eddie Irvine did have a good shot at a championship in '99 when Schumacher broke his leg. Ferrari then pushed Irvine after they got Mika Salo
and then decided not to in the last race.
And then
decided not to in the last race, but did just enough to take the constructors that year.
So, because again, unfair for Eddie as well. But
tell you what, Arriva Bene would set fire to his mum for that Irvine championship right now.
So I think that's it's quite a standout championship, especially when you consider that Rosberg has recovered from being worldwide renowned as being like that number 2 driver at Mercedes, and he's now world champion. So, we take the piss out of him, but all props to him. You can't take that away from him.
Realistically, he's been incredibly close to Lewis before the car was a championship winning car.
He was better in 2013 than Lewis was.
He was very close to Lewis most of the way through 2014.
Yep.
Didn't lose out by a whole lot there. 2015, Lewis was on a different level.
Yep.
2016, either of them could have won, and either of them would have deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talk about, well, it's an unfair championship because of failures and retirements, and just listen to what our interview with Sean Kelly a few weeks ago now. He said there are many championships you can go back and put asterisks against.
What about obelisks?
Obelisks, you put them against them as well.
James Hunt only won in '76 because of Lauda's accident.
Yeah, exactly. There are titles where
Mika Hakkinen only won in '99 because of Schumacher's accident.
Yeah, there are a lot of permutations and things that can happen.
Schumacher only won the championship against Damon Hill because of his accident.
Is that first championship in '94? That was massively unfair. But what I do want to say is those closing laps of that race in Abu Dhabi were
tense.
Yeah, I was biting my nails. My
exciting.
Nerves were a wreck.
I can vouch for the fact that Chris was biting his nails because he was sat next to me on the sofa in the blogging room, biting his nails while typing with his elbows.
I worked out before. I know
my butt was clenched.
I know we're gonna go through it properly team by team. But when Dan came around earlier, I think I worked out what lost the championship for Hamilton and how he could have won it. And if I'm surprised that when Vettel came in, a Red Bull wasn't sent in as well, to cover off Vettel.
Yeah.
And put one of the Red Bulls on the same strategy. So if they'd have done it with Verstappen, because he was ahead.
But he went longer though, didn't he?
Yeah. But if they'd have brought him in with Vettel, because it would have made sense if he'd gone longer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd have come out with Vettel on the fast tyres, and then instead they'd have gone towards the Mercedes together, instead of Vettel being held up for those laps behind Verstappen. And I think if that would have happened, Rosberg would have found himself in a lot of bother.
Possibly. Again, there's so many possibilities that could have happened, but
it's all shoulda, woulda, coulda. Basically, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to lie. I'd have preferred Hamilton to have won the championship because I like Hamilton more than I like Rosberg. But to win a world championship, you got to deserve it.
And he deserves it.
Yeah, of course you do.
Absolutely.
There's been 21 races this season.
Yeah.
More races than ever.
More races than ever. He has won the title across more races.
Yeah.
So, to everyone that says it's an undeserving championship, bollocks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we go through team by team then, Paul?
Yeah,
If we start at the back, you might want to start with the second team that I wrote down because that's
The double Toro Rosso retirement.
the double Toro Rosso retirement. Yes, the only team to
Terrible
retire.
weekend for them.
Torrid Rosso.
But yeah, I saw Torrid Rosso. Yeah, I saw something quite funny. With Danny Kvyat started the season in a Red Bull and finished it on a bicycle.
He is one something. We're probably going to talk about it next year anyway, but it is Toro Rosso related.
Yeah.
Now Pierre Gasly's won the GP2 World Championship. Do you think there's any chance
Career ruined.
do you think there's any chance that Kvyat might not get that drive that he's already been offered?
No, I think
No,
it's going to
'cause,
be Danny Kvyat, and I think Gasly's going to find himself doing a year of being pictured in the Toro Rosso garage at every race.
Probably, but let's not forget if there's nothing saying that they won't just swap Kvyat out.
No, I know what you mean.
If Kvyat has the kind of year that he started with Red Bull last year, then yeah, he could find himself hoofed out.
Yeah.
And Gasly give him the chance.
No, at the start of the year, Kvyat was doing much better than he was last year.
He was actually outperforming
Yeah.
Ricciardo for the first.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he was outperforming him, but he was.
He got a podium
Way up
in Bahrain, was it, or China? One of the early races
yeah,
he got a
but
podium.
there was problems.
But that
for-
was Danny
yeah.
Rick's tyre blowout.
Yeah.
Which may have been caused by Kvyat.
Might have been.
And,
We don't.
Vettel.
Possibly.
Don't know for sure, but he was in 2015. Ricardo was a different class to Kvyat.
Yeah.
In
Don't-
2016, that wasn't the case.
No, and don't forget, Kvyat did have a terrible habit of smashing into the back of drivers.
Mainly Vettel.
Yeah,
Mainly
so,
Sebastian Vettel, yeah, early on in the season.
So he did. He did deserve to get. If they had the opportunity to stick Verstappen in the car over him, first of all, sticking Verstappen in the car has now turned out to be a fucking masterstroke by
Red Bull.
By Red Bull. And when you think about, well, how many races did he do? Did he do 4 races this year in?
Yeah.
So he did 4 races in a Toro Rosso and ended the season 4 points behind Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari.
A little bit more than that, but yeah, 6, 7 points. I think it
less
was,
than 10 points.
Yeah. But it's a wonderful transition for Max. We've spoken about him a lot on the podcast, but I mean, the Toro Rosso drivers, I felt sorry for Danny Kvyat because it appeared to be just an engine failure or a power unit failure of some description, which made him pull over to the side of the circuit. But all credit to his character. He didn't seem too disconsolate or head down or anything. The guy turned up on a scooter to give him a lift. He's like, "No, I found this mountain bike. I'll go back on this." So he set off on a mountain bike back to the paddock. I wonder whose mountain bike that was.
Yeah, you've got to wonder if if it was a marshal or a track worker, if they actually got it when they got it back.
Yeah, possibly. Or maybe it's just one of those no, take my mountain bike. Where's your bike? Danny Kvyat took it.
It's in the Red Bull garage. Oh God, they'll be setting it on fire and jumping it over sharks.
It come back with stunt pegs on it and all sorts.
Yeah. Delivered by Travis Pastrana. Yeah. Upside down, on fire.
I don't know, but I don't know where it's gone. But I've just seen Jeremy Clarkson walking away with a mountain bike under his arm. Carlos Sainz.
What was his retirement? I can't remember exactly how Carlos retired.
Box full of neutrals.
Gearbox
yeah,
just went.
yeah, gearbox went, yeah.
He got a Magnussen up his arse, and it took his gearbox out.
But he
Yes.
qualified last as
It
well,
wasn't
didn't he?
Magnussen, it was Palmer.
Was it Palmer?
Palmer.
Yeah.
He had a Renault.
He had a Renault up the Jackson.
Yeah.
Did he qualify last, though?
No, he qualified 21st. He was only faster than Ericsson.
Right.
It was about sort of 2 or 3 tenths faster than Ericsson. In
Although-
They had a
both the
weird suspension problem which they
Yeah.
couldn't really diagnose.
They had an awful practice session as well.
I think
Kvyat had punctures in both. Both the Friday practice sessions, Kvyat had 2 punctures, didn't he?
Yeah.
One in the first, one in the second. And for some reason, Kvyat well off the pace in that first practice session. He was about 10 seconds away from everyone else. And that's the second practice session. They got it together a little bit, but still, the Toro Rossos were right at the back. And like we say, Carlos Sainz qualified 21st. Looked like he was doing the normal science thing of just scything his way through the field very quietly. But he didn't materialise in the top 10 because his gearbox gave way.
No, but he was still quite low down though, wasn't he, when his gearbox
Oh yeah, he's
went?
about 15th, 16th, something like that.
You see, I don't think we've seen ever since it looked like Carlos Sainz wanted to go to Renault, and Red Bull have stopped him moving. I don't think we've seen the same driver from him. He hasn't been that guy that was, and this is the thing with Kvyat. You see, I don't believe that Kvyat is giving Carlos Sainz a run for his money. I think Carlos Sainz has dropped off.
I think it's a regroup. It's regrouping for Toro Rosso in general. I mean,
But I don't think
he
doesn't want to be there. That's the thing.
No, but I can understand why. And he's already said that I can't be the guy, Red Bull waiting for a Red Bull seat forever.
Not when there's a 27-year-old and an 18-year-old in the Big Brother team.
No, but he knows he's at Toro Rosso for next year. That Toro Rosso could be quite competitive given the fact that it's going to be using the current Renault engines and not a year-old Ferrari engine with no updates or anything.
And they've got good designers working for that team.
They do have at the moment.
But he's still looking down the barrel of 2 years in Formula One. If Red Bull keep him for after next year, of not contending for championships or wins.
Well, it'll be 3 by the time end of next year.
So but I mean, like,
it's already 2 years.
His contract, he's got 2 years on his contract.
Yeah. Well, so it's 1 year with a 1 year option, I think.
Yeah, but it's their option, not his. So he's looking at 2 years of this, and of not being able to go anywhere, not being able to make his own decisions. And I think that from me looking at his performances since it turned out he couldn't go to Renault, seems to have affected him quite badly.
Still think he's good enough to go somewhere else though and shine.
He is right now, but I tell you what, if he has another season of just mid
pissing about,
no one will want him because Formula One moves on that quickly.
I mean, let's not forget he performed very well in Brazil. Only 2 weeks ago.
But if he has another scatty season though.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's always going to be another Gasly or another Fairline or something. There's always going to be somebody else that's willing to that's not willing, but that's putting performances in. And I like I say, considering Danny Kvyat was the guy that was nerfed out of Red Bull. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's doing Carlos Sainz any favours, getting done over by Kvyat.
No, I think Carlos Sainz I'm talking about here now. I think he quite enjoyed having that battle with Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I did.
And they kept each other on their toes. And I think Max is still being kept on his toes by Danny Ricciardo, whereas, as you rightfully said, I don't think maybe Carlos thinks he has to be kept on his toes by Danny Kvyat. But it's hard to tell. That Toro Rosso car has struggled for pace towards the end of the year with that Ferrari engine. We knew it would. And
are you listening, Sauber?
Exactly.
And don't forget, Kvyat isn't a bad driver.
No, he's not. He's not a bad driver.
What you could be seeing is the effects of the car being really shit, and both drivers out driving it, but you wouldn't know it.
I'm not saying Kvyat's a bad driver, but I do think that in the eyes of other teams, he might be soiled goods.
Right.
And I do think that might look quite bad on Carlos Sainz because realistically, Kvyat will always be, unless he does something ridiculous like start winning races, or do a Perez, and really start outperforming his car. If he doesn't start doing something special, he will always be for the rest of his career the guy that got sacked 4 races into a season from Red Bull and moved down to the junior team. And that's what he'll always be unless he does something. I'm not saying he's a bad Formula One driver, but I don't think he's good enough to do the job that it's going to take to shake that reputation. Because I don't think he's as good as Perez.
I'm with you on that.
Would you have thought Perez was as good as Perez?
Yes.
The year after he got dumped from McLaren.
Yes, because I think that was McLaren taking him too early. because he was really good in Sauber.
McLaren just tried to McLaren him, and he didn't fit that mould.
Yeah, no, but I think that he wasn't ready for a big team.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but that's also the time when McLaren started sliding backwards.
Oh yeah,
as well.
It was the beginning of the
the
decline.
Could you say the same thing about Kvyat though? He'd had a year in Toro Rosso.
Maybe,
The-
but
Went to Red Bull.
Went
perhaps.
to Red Bull.
see
Lasted 4 races longer
again
than.
though. Don't get me wrong. I don't think
Perez.
Perez is good enough to win a world championship. I don't think he'll ever be one of those drivers. I think Perez is good enough to be a really good Massa.
I think Perez is too nice to win a world championship.
I think he'll
Same
win
as
races.
Massa.
I think he'll win races.
Yeah.
I think so. Give him the car, Sergio Perez. Well, always give him the
There's
car.
better drivers on the grid than him that still haven't had a podium.
Yeah, but Sergio Perez, I think will win races. He's got a few years ahead of him. But anyway, that's Toro Rosso's weekend. Was horrible.
I would say in a nutshell, but it was a very big nut.
Yeah. Who we got? Well, first on the list, second really.
We'll go for Renault next.
Last of the runners.
Better weekend than Toro Rosso.
Slightly, yeah.
And Palmer again, apart from his unfortunate retirement, putting Magnussen in the shade.
Magnussen retired. Palmer was actually classified as the last of the runners.
I thought he retired. Did he go in and come back out?
I think he came back. He must have come back out because I'm pretty sure
After taking Carlos Sainz out of the race,
he carried on.
did he swap his nose?
I think he may have swapped his nose. Kevin Magnussen had to swap his nose early on as well, didn't
Yeah.
But anyway, he was ahead of him on the road, and he
qualified ahead of him.
qualified ahead of him as well.
Kevin Magnussen, he was in holiday mode. Let's be honest. I'm here for the pay. See you later.
Last day of term.
Yeah.
Bring
Don't
your
need
toys.
to wear your uniform.
Yeah, bring your toys in.
Just
Don't throw them out
makes
the
a change that a driver can say, "I'm sat in a car from the Enstone team at the last race of the season. I'm here for the pay."
He's
Thinking he's going to get it.
Yeah.
Both lucky guys though, because realistically, I don't think either of them did enough to get a drive next year. I always said I'd take Palmer over Magnussen because there's a chance that there might be something under there that we haven't
but
seen
look
yet.
at where Magnussen's going. Magnussen is Gutierrez's replacement. Now, Gutierrez or Magnussen? I'd always take Kevin Magnussen
I'd
over
always
Esteban
take. To be
Gutierrez.
perfectly honest, I wouldn't take either of them. But I'd take Magnussen over thing. That'll be by the time the new Renault comes. I think Magnussen might regret his choice as well.
Well, yeah, was it his choice though? This is the thing. They were already chasing another driver.
Yeah, but
Magnussen
apparently
made it
Palmer
easy
was
for them.
Palmer was the fifth pick,
choice.
wasn't he?
Well, it doesn't matter fifth pick or not. He's
No,
in the car
he's
for
there.
it.
He's there.
Default.
Yeah.
That's it. So yeah, Magnussen retired, didn't he, from the race?
Yeah, he was the first retirement on lap 5.
Yeah, and then we had Palmer taking Carlos Sainz out of the race, and then
Didn't notice, but he actually did get a 5-second penalty for it.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
Okay, fine. I missed that as well. But he.
I thought you wrote about it on the blog.
I don't think so.
Yes, you did.
Wrote about the shunt, but just didn't. Did we put the?
I can't remember
penalty?
that.
Pretty sure.
Okay. There was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Well, I
there
don't
was.
remember it, even though it was a little more over 24 hours ago.
But when he ran into the back of Sainz, there was a collective Jopo from all four of us.
Yeah.
I think even one of the cats might have joined in with it as well.
Jolyon Palmer, last of the runners, but hey, last of the runners in a race where there were 5 retirements. So,
yeah.
if that's a positive, is it really?
Not really.
No.
He ran into somebody and managed to coax his car around to the end.
On to next year.
Yeah. You can't really say anything about what the Renault performance was like because they were just making up the numbers.
To be perfectly honest, I think the Renault it's been more competitive than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah. It's got into the points a few times.
I think if it wasn't for the Sainz clatter, then you'd have had Jolyon like 11th or something like that. He'd have been sniffing around points.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Maybe.
But I don't think he'd have got points.
No.
But he'd have been one of the closer teams 2 points.
Yeah, who's next on the list then?
Next up, we have Sauber. Ericsson in 15th and Nasser in 16th.
So finishing just ahead of
ahead.
of Jolie and Palmer in last.
Fairly bad weekend. Incredibly anonymous.
Yeah, massively anonymous. Nothing
Still
happening.
no announcement for second seat, is there?
Nothing as yet. It's
Although, did anyone spot the Felipe Nasr getting into the car thing on when we were watching it? It was almost like, it wasn't like a goodbye, but it was like a very sort of team handshakes all around. It might just be because it was the last race of the season.
yeah.
Team handshakes all around, big hugs with engineers, and then getting in the car. I don't want to say it looked
Did
like
you
a
notice
goodbye.
Verline doing that as well when he retired?
But he didn't retire
Oh,
from
so
the race.
Well, mate, it must have been when he came in. Then
It was
I can't-
Button who retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who? What? It must have been the start of the race then, when he was getting in the car. I can't remember whether it was the beginning or the end of the race.
Yeah.
But Verline went round and shook everybody's hand in the garage.
Well, he doesn't know if he's racing for that team again next year. Same with
Felipe Nasr.
Nasr.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be as simple as that. It could be
Yeah.
like, well, thanks very much for all your hard work. Hopefully we get to see each other again next year. If not, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Sauber.
Yeah, anonymous.
Here's to a better 2017.
But it's not going to happen.
Do they
It's not
have?
gonna happen.
Does Felipe Nasr have the backing of Banco do Brasil?
No, it's been all over the place. There's been no official confirmation, but when you get Autosport and Auto Motor Sport and the BBC and Sky saying he's lost his backing, I think you can pretty much take it as read.
You can
Yeah.
take it to the Banco de Brazil.
Well, you can't because they're not backing him and they won't let him in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks unfortunate for
Yeah,
for
he's going to have
Nasr.
to he's going to have to scrabble around and try and find new sponsorship if he wants that seat next season.
It's not happening, is it?
Otherwise, it's going to go to somebody with a big checkbook.
I can see somebody getting a call from Williams to be a reserve driver again next year. As soon as they change their reserve driver every year.
Yeah. It'll give Paul de Resta more time to be on the Sky pad.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining with that.
No. Who to replace him? We can talk about that in future podcasts.
We can.
Next up, we have we actually have the Manners. 13th for Ocon in his last race for the team. 14th for Verline in his last race of the season for the team.
And they took each other out.
And they
which
took
is-
each other out.
Yeah, I mean, they cause that could have been a horrible double retirement right at the end of the season. They
At
were.
least they didn't need the cars for the next race.
No, they didn't need the cars for the next race. They didn't need to. They needed to finish ahead of the Saubers, but they
They didn't
could
look
have.
like they were going to trouble the points.
No, and to be quite honest with you, they needed a lot of retirements going on up ahead of them in order to finish in the points. But the it's like a 2x2 thing, isn't it? You know, sort of working from the back here. You've got the two Saubers and then the two Manners. It points to exactly what we were saying a few podcasts ago, that Manor are going to pass Sauber, and normally sort of like last race of the season, last couple of races of the season, you get kind of a glimpse into what next year might bring.
The only thing that might save Sauber is that
Going back on the decision not to put the current season's engine in the car.
no, it is because I don't think, regardless of what happens engine-wise, that like Manor have got bigger problems than engines, because realistically, although they've been more competitive and they've been more on with the field this year, it hasn't done as much as we thought it might do, them having Mercedes engines.
They're still putting the team together effectively,
Yeah.
because it was wiping the slate clean at the start of the season with the new ownership.
Well, your
and
man's
they're-
looking for more investment now, isn't he? Because he's realised the guy that bought the team.
Stephen Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, he's looking for more investment.
Well,
It's
he's
a bigger
got-
money hole than he thought it was going to be.
I mean, he's got Dave Ryan in. He's got who else have Manor brought in? They've brought in a few people, haven't they? But they're going the right way about doing things for a change. It's
Yeah.
just taken them a lot longer than it should have done.
But I don't think they'll overtake Sauber.
for next year,
Yeah.
well, they very nearly did it this year.
Only because the when you look at the facilities Sauber has, because don't forget they're still working out of one of the best facilities in Formula One, which is what BMW built for them. I don't think we're I don't think Manor will be able to do the same job as they will be able to do aero-wise. I think that's what will keep them ahead of
Don't forget,
Manor.
Manor put this car for 2016 together quite hastily, and we were all quite impressed at first when we saw the Manor. Oh, the kind of looks a bit, shape-wise, a bit like the Brawn from like 7 years ago, with a few extra fins on it, and we thought it looked quite good. It turned out it wasn't as good as we thought it might be.
It was a rocket on the straights.
It was a rocket on the straights. This is what I'm getting to, because they had this year's Mercedes engine in it.
Yeah.
Next year, they've got a 2017 Mercedes engine in that car. Sauber have got a 2016 Ferrari engine.
Yeah, but Toro Rosso is still quicker than this year's than Manor.
They were running around the same places when Carlos Sainz retired.
Yeah, this race, but in general,
Yeah.
Toro Rosso still being quicker.
I
think
that Sauber may well do better than we think next year.
I hope for their sake that they do, but I think I've just got that feeling that
they've put a lot of work into getting the right team members in place.
Yeah.
People like Ruth Buscom. They did several other big hires after the summer break.
It's a shame they haven't put the same effort into getting their drivers in place.
They can't at the moment. That's
they can't
the
at the
thing.
moment until they know who's going to be bringing the money in for car number 2.
Yeah.
Engines actually cost half of a Formula One team's budget.
Yeah.
So, in Manor's case, where they're bringing Pascal Wehrlein is probably payment for engines. That's going to be invaluable to a team like Manor. If Marcus Ericsson's money pays for engines, then who knows who'll get that other
Well, I mean,
seat
it
at
could be
Sauber.
that Ferrari offer them Gutierrez.
It could well happen, yeah.
Yeah, could
A
do.
return to Sauber for Esteban Gutierrez.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they were negotiating drivers for engine discounts.
Yeah, we'll take Gutierrez and a discount.
Yeah.
But if given that it's an aero formula next year, they've said, let's save some money on the engine and spend that on the aero,
Yeah.
then that will probably do them better than splurging out on getting a 2017 Ferrari engine
Yeah.
and saving money on the wrong things.
See, that's the thing. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how much it goes back to being an aero formula, because let's face it, look at all those championships Red Bull won, and Renault
being aero.
And Renault's never had the best engine. At that time, it was always
Mercedes.
down on the straights to Mercedes.
Yeah, though what I understand is the design of the Renault engine helped the aero package be better.
yeah.
So
that
they
worked hand in hand.
Yeah.
so they could have built a more powerful Renault engine,
Yeah,
but it would have made a slower car.
yeah.
I think Sauber's reasoning is that they've designed around next year's aero regulations based on this year's Ferrari engine shape, and next year's Ferrari engine is going to have a different shape to it, and that screws up all their calculations.
Well,
I did read somewhere. I can't remember where offhand, but the other teams are able to make the changes to for the hull that the engine goes in. Sauber have been that tight and that heavy on aero.
Ted Kravitz mentioned this though, and he mentioned the same thing. He said, but he put it across more as that would just be in PR speak. And it was more embarrassment that they didn't want to say, yeah, we just clean can't afford next year's Ferrari engine.
I can see both sides of the argument.
Yeah, I can
But
too.
you're limited on the power of your computational fluid dynamics computers that you're allowed to use.
Ooh.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, give just a little bit.
Somebody give this man a cup of green tea, milk and
So,
two sugars.
So with that, if they're running as much CFD simulations of the aero as they can, you could understand wanting more time to build the right aero package and saying, okay, let's fix it with an engine. We're not going to be fighting for wins. We're going to be fighting for points.
CFD sounds like something the Happy Mondays would have been taking.
It probably was.
It means something else in the finance industry as well. But apart from that, the usual anonymous weekend for
Yeah.
Sauber, as we've seen for the last 2 seasons.
Let's stop wasting
Fingers
our
crossed
life
for next
talking
year.
about Sauber.
Yeah. We will move on to Haas. We had
Let's stop wasting our life talking about us.
we had Roman Grosjean as Esteban Gutierrez, and
In
Esteban
11th.
in 11th, and Esteban Gutierrez in 12th.
Yeah, one place behind is normal 11th. What can you say, really? I mean, they got another quite anonymous race. Not quite as anonymous as Sauber, but
First of the two cars first cars not to be lapped.
well, there you go. So they're on
Yeah.
the same lap as the leaders, but you got to remember as well, it's a very long lap at Abu Dhabi. It's like 1 minute 40 something, or 1 minute 50 if you lose Hamilton. But it's quite a long lap. So getting lapped multiple times is something that 2014 Manor would have been doing. But yeah, for it's. Is that a positive you can take from that, really? Law with the first car is not to be lapped.
That team
Do you
seems
know
to
what?
have fallen apart a little bit, doesn't it?
No,
Like everything about it.
Not really. What I'm looking forward to with Haas is how well they do their own car next year.
Yeah, but I don't mean I don't just mean performance wise. They seem to be constantly, the drivers are having to go at the team, or the teams are having to go
Yeah.
at the drivers. It's the whole. There's nothing smooth there. Whereas, given the fact that they're a fledgling team,
Yeah.
and they're going forward into their second season where they need to do it, you really would like to see it like galvanized, like a
Do you know
Brawn was, or something like that.
yeah.
To try and push forward.
I think though. I think the positive you can take from that is that the emotions are running so high in that team because they have scored points, and they know that they can score points, which for a team in their first year in Formula One is brilliant.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Manor getting that pissed off that they hadn't, that
Oh,
their
yeah,
drivers
yeah,
aren't
yeah.
scoring
Yeah,
points in
yeah,
the
yeah.
races?
Yeah. Gutierrez
So-
throwing his gloves down in the garage because of various arguments with the team that don't give him the car to score the point that he is so desperate to score.
Yeah.
Anyone see? Talking of Gutierrez on the grid, all the team were practically with Grosjean when he was getting into the car.
Nobody was with Gutierrez.
There was one person with Gutierrez,
And they weren't
he wasn't-
talking.
Yeah, they weren't talking. All the team were seemed to be at Grosjean's car.
Yeah.
Gutierrez was just, there's your car, go in, drive it.
Yeah, and I think it's probably his race engineer, but again, we don't know what his pre-race ritual is. He might be like, "Don't talk to me, man."
Yeah,
Mawson getting in the zone or whatever. Don't know
Or
what
maybe
else.
the whole team had set up his car for him while
then
the
went
cameras
over
weren't
to-
on him.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah.
but this was when he was putting his gloves and balaclava on.
Yeah, they were expected to have clear the air talks in Abu Dhabi with Esteban Gutierrez. I'm talking about the Haas team.
Yeah,
They're supposed to have clear the air talks with Esteban Gutierrez, just so that it wasn't a sour note to finish on.
not
basically.
leaving under a cloud.
Yeah, basically, just I'm sure he does understand. It's just a sheer frustration thing. They've got to do what's best for the team, and what's best for the team is to change driver personnel and get somebody in who they know can match and perhaps beat Romain Grosjean in that same car next year.
But on the whole, I would say it's been a positive season for them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Scoring points, in Gutierrez's case, being on the fringes of scoring points.
He was unlucky in a couple of cases, but I mean, as we've alluded to many times before, 7th place in that's 3 full seasons now in Formula One, and he's only managed 1 point scoring position.
I think his future is it's either going to be parachuted into Sauber by Ferrari next year, or he's done.
Tell you what, Ferrari do. If they've got something in their fucking teeth, they don't like letting it go, do they?
No.
They'll fucking keep flogging that donkey until its eyes have got
Well, do you
fucking
know who's-
maggots on them.
Unless it's somebody who's to do with running the team or designing the car.
Yeah.
Do you know who the Pirelli have picked the bigger teams to do their tyre tests for next year using either this year's or last year's cars?
Yeah.
Do you know who's done the most laps for Ferrari in testing the Pirelli tyres?
Gutierrez.
Esteban Gutierrez. He's done more laps for Ferrari testing 2017 tyres than Sebastian Vettel did in his test.
Do you know what? Something tells me he is the new Luca Badoa.
Yeah.
because you might see him crop up in another team in a couple of years.
Well, hang on a second. He did have his car upside down at one point.
Oh, there you go then.
Well, yeah, see, he is the new Luca Badoa. All he needs now is terrible hair and to spin a Ferrari in a couple of years' time.
He's got quite terrible hair.
No, the hair thing was 3 shows ago. We've moved on.
Oh, right, okay.
Badoa had worse hair.
Because, I mean, Badoa was knocking around Ferrari for years. Occasionally, he'd get to drive one in anger. He got sent to Minardi for a bit when they had Ferrari engines in there. And then he comes back and then he tests again, and then he's unceremoniously dumped and replaced with Fisichella.
Well, yeah, didn't they lose a driver halfway through a year? Was that when Felipe Massa had his accident?
When Felipe Massa had his accident, they got Fisichella in.
Well, no, they got Badoa in to start with because Badoa was racing at Valencia and was running 17th and just kept spinning all the time.
And then Fisichella had that incredible weekend in Belgium.
And then all of a sudden Fisichella
And
was
then
Ferrari driver.
went, "Oh, can we have you?
Yeah.
Dave Force India. Here is loads of money."
Yes. Yeah. Who did Force India get in for the rest of that season? Was it Sutil?
Well, it might have been.
Yeah.
If only we had these devices in front of us
Yeah.
that could look back on the 2009 season.
All I can find is porn and pictures of cats on mine.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes porn involving cats.
No. I've got the Jacques sample one more time this season. But yeah, that's the teams outside the points.
Yeah, I think all of the remaining teams had at least one car in the points.
Yes. We'll start with the team that got one car to finish 10th and one car retired.
Lee, are you going to be able to hold it together?
No.
No? Should we carry on regardless?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Fernando.
It's a good drive from Fernando.
It was a good drive from Fernando. He was putting Felipe Massa under some serious pressure at times. I think Felipe eventually got the better of
Was
him.
Fernando faster than him at certain points?
At certain
Well,
points.
yes, he got, as Chris pointed out earlier on our group chat, second fastest lap.
Yeah,
Fernando
that's-
Alonso.
That's a good point. I think the DHL Fastest Lap Award went to Ferrari's Sebastian Vettel.
It did.
When he was doing that charge towards the end of
Yeah.
the race. We'll get to that in a bit. And I was very surprised to see that the second fastest lap of the race was, as you quite rightly say, Fernando Alonso.
But
Why were you surprised when last year, fastest lap of the last race of the year went to Fernando Alonso?
Yeah,
It was
there is
tyres
that.
though, wasn't it? Because wasn't he on a similar strategy to Sebastian?
I think he just did. I think he just decided, you know what, it's the last race. I'm just going to have a bit of fun. Went into an engine mode he's probably not supposed to use, and like he did earlier on in the
like I
season.
say, I think he had pretty sticky tyres when he was doing it. But
Yeah.
the worrying thing for McLaren was the cars that went past them and how easily they went past them.
Can we just take a second to step out of the box of podcast and Formula One for a second and just look at it from the outside? We're quite happy that McLaren scored a single point in the last race of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
it'll be interesting what happens next year. But I can't see it. I can't see the step that they're going to make.
No, it was
Even Fernando's questioned it.
Will the Honda relationship last into the 2018 season?
Fernando turned around and said that when he was asked about what happens next year, and he said, "Well, it's going to be back towards aero regs, like we know next year." He said, "I have full confidence in Honda providing a better engine than they have this year for us. We'll just have to wait and see whether the team can build the car around it." So that he's already questioning
it.
McLaren.
Yeah.
I think that is a case of, well, we've got the new boss in. What is Zach Brown going to do?
Yeah, let's not forget Ron
and who
Dennis.
he's going to bring in. One of the first things that Zach Brown may well have to do is smooth out the relationship with Honda, because you can imagine things being a little bit fraught between Honda and Ron Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Ron Dennis as
Because
well
you
is
can
the man
imagine
who
things
fought
being-
really hard for Alonso to come back
Yeah.
to the team.
And you can imagine things being fraught between Ron Dennis and
Ron Dennis.
the entire world.
Ron Dennis arguing with himself for his own reflection.
Yeah.
You get out of my way. I'm Ron Dennis. No, I'm Ron Dennis.
Mom!
I'm Ron Dennis, and so's my wife. We have to talk about Jensen.
We do. It was. We spoke about it on Formula Lee. Was it Ed Forsyth who said those damn curbs?
Turns 8 and 9. Those
Yeah.
curbs.
Turn 9.
shame,
That
I know.
curb.
Yeah.
That curb.
That
not
curb.
Turn 9.
That will forever be known now as Jensen's corner.
The Jensen corner. Yeah. Do you know what though? It will
America missed it, but we'll get to that later.
I think we should actually talk about that now, because we're talking about McLaren and Jensen retiring, and the fact that America went to an ad break.
America went to an ad break before Jensen retired and came back from the ad break saying that, Jensen Button has retired. And I had tweets from Jana Robansky and Mike Martin, who both said, we missed that because American coverage decided to go to a commercial break.
Yeah,
So-
and Miguel Gonzalez sent a photo of what it was that they were showing, and it was an
Raccoons.
advert involving raccoons.
So an advert involving raccoons is apparently more important than
Well, no,
watching.
don't forget. A lot of people pay a lot of money for these adverts, and they get paid a lot of money to have these adverts in certain places.
Yeah, and we know from the heady days of ITV doing
Yeah.
Formula One coverage just how gut wrenching it is when something exciting is about to happen, and then all of a sudden the commentary goes quiet because it's time for an ad break.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just one of those things. I think it's you're watching it on a commercial television station, so you're going to get adverts.
But if that's the only choice you've got,
Oh yeah, it's shit, but
Then-
it's all we had when it went to ITV.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we hated it.
Yeah, but there's no point getting upset or crying about it because it doesn't change anything.
No,
If you get upset about things like that, the only person that gets upset is you.
no, I know what you mean, but it's
Yeah, but
it's-
they're talking to people of great influence like ourselves. We'll have a word with Bernie.
well, the thing is, I mean,
Not that
Chase.
that'll do much good
We'll
now.
talk
yeah.
to Chase.
We'll talk to Chase. Yeah.
Well, we've not met Chase yet.
Well, we provide a live blog during the races, and Jana actually said that she keeps that open on her computer to see what's going on the race because American coverage misses so much. So
Perhaps we could advertise raccoons.
no,
Any raccoon dealers who want to
No,
give us some money to
no,
advertise during our
Dan.
live blog.
So
No.
now what you can do is get the Formula One on an illegal stream, or something, so you can watch the American station.
yeah.
So then when it goes to adverts, just lie.
Oh, I see. Yeah, just make it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had 8-car pile up there.
Haas leading the race.
Well, this isn't North Korea. We're not just going to start reporting that things have happened just to make the nation feel good.
Google won't have it.
yes, we are.
Google won't have it if it's fake news now.
Well, they're not.
No.
Oh.
And I can't find anything out. I'm just going to step away from the podcast side for a second. Lee, have you got a phone charger cable anywhere?
Yeah.
If only we could pause this recording.
I
so
know,
we-
yeah.
I know, but
some way.
that's all I needed to say.
In the living room, but in the plug socket.
Fair enough. I'll go grab that in a second. But America.
Professional podcasting.
Oh, come on! It's the end of the season, last day of term, and all that.
Yeah, we're all
Though to answer everyone's question that's tweeted over the last last day since the race finished, we are carrying on all the way through the winter.
We are. Well, we'll get onto that as well a bit later. We got some ideas of what we're going to be doing throughout the winter.
No sleep till Melbourne.
Yes.
Should we move on to Williams next?
Well, yeah, it was just want to say it was an emotional retirement for Jensen with it being his last race, and with it being his last race, no more Jensen.
No more chance.
He's got that contract for 2018, but we'll
it
see what
doesn't
happens.
seem to be, does it? It looks like now to me that
I think it was said on Sky TV, that was a Ron Dennis deal,
yeah.
and now
Well,
that
no,
Ron's out the picture.
I think it was done to take the fact that McLaren were replacing Jensen out, because if you turn around and say, "Oh, it's a sabbatical," people are talking about it being a sabbatical and not talking about the fact that they've replaced Jensen with somebody else.
Yeah.
I think it might have just been done for his.
Thinking about it, it might not just be for him. It might be for Honda. If
Well, yeah,
they had a really tough
yeah.
relationship with Ron Dennis,
Yeah,
but they've got a fairly good relationship with Jensen Button.
yeah.
Having him still in the team, if Ron Dennis was going to be there,
But he's going to be an ambassador still, but we
apparently-
won't see him in the car.
Apparently, he's in he was either most valuable driver or second to Lewis. It was ridiculous, like what sponsors think of him.
Yeah,
I think
he's
he
well
might have
loved
even-
by sponsors.
I think he might have even been above Lewis, on that side of things. And given the fact that McLaren hemorrhage sponsors as it is, it probably
Yeah.
does them some good to have Jensen Button still
but
around.
now they've got Zach Brown in,
Yeah,
that might be less of a factor.
maybe, but as a fan, it's obviously it's shit I had it with Damon Hill as well. Where when you and then there was a couple of years before there was Button, where there was no one for me to support, which is what I'm going into next year. But it's going to be a lot easier to watch Formula One without watching Jensen do so poorly.
Yeah, so
And interestingly enough, on a Sky interview with somebody, I can't remember who it was, he was talking to Paul de Rista, I think, about what he's gonna do next year, and he said, there's lots of stuff that I'd like to do, and he said, I'll hopefully see you on different grids somewhere else. He said, I wouldn't like mind doing some motocross. Rallycross, sorry.
Yeah.
And De Rista said, he said, well, of course your dad did rallycross, didn't he? He said, yeah. He said, it's such a fun motorsport to do. He said, but it's almost like it's just like a brutal sport. He said, almost the opposite of Formula E, which is just cutting edge technology.
right.
Yeah.
It made me. I thought it was a strange thing, just to slide in, or out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
No, I think he's probably going to get semi-pro or fully on professional at triathlon.
Yeah, I mean, he's done triathlons with the Brownlee brothers before as well, and they've actually I remember reading an interview, I'm sure it was a BBC interview, where they actually said that the Jensen Button's triathlon times were surprisingly good when it came to being close to the Brownlee brothers. I mean, they weren't they did a triathlon and they weren't taking it seriously, but Button was there with them.
Well, he has won there's always multiple classes in triathlon, but generally you've got the professionals separated from the amateurs who don't win prize money.
Mm-hmm.
Jensen Button's won the amateur class before.
Yeah.
And with long distance triathlon, if you're looking at the sort of Ironmans that Sean Kelly does, professional careers in that tend to start when you hit 40.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
So you could well go
Well,
on to be doing that.
lots of this endurance stuff, it tends to be the older people that do better at it because obviously it's
You
still
have to build up the endurance.
Well, no, it's a massively physical thing, but it's more mental from what I gather.
Oh yeah,
it's mental strength.
Huge mental component to it.
That's it. On to Williams.
Bottas retiring eventually, and Massa
also retiring, but in a different way.
But retiring in the points
And retiring ahead of Alonso.
Yeah.
Felipe finished ahead.
It's faster than you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the emotional thing about having little Felipe wave his dad out the garage in his Williams uniform,
race
overalls, race suit. That was a nice touch, but
wouldn't it be terrible if something would have happened?
What?
Lee,
like a horrible
thing?
crash.
Well,
that would be awful.
Did you not see it?
What?
His little boy waving him out in the garage.
Exactly.
But there were Williams mechanics and his mum was there as well.
Yeah,
Felipe's wife.
I'm massively superstitious about things like this, and I always think if there's an opportunity for a headline, it'll probably happen at some point. It's like when you hear these people of like a massive like pile up with a van on a motorway. it's like a band on the way to a gig or something. It always makes a fucking headline. So I would worry that I was tempting fate, having a big send off out of the garage. So, say, see you later, Felipe. We'll see you in a couple of hours.
You've watched too many made-for-TV movies.
Yeah, I think you have. Yeah,
It was a normal day.
Nothing
Or
could
so
go
they
wrong this
thought.
afternoon.
I was 2 hours away from retirement.
I've just bought my boat, the SS Live Forever.
Yeah. So, but
I was two hours away from retirement. Then in the back of somebody's motorhome, Pastor Maldonado sneaks up behind a driver. And, boom, today I drive.
But yeah,
Still the last winner for a Williams.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's a solid performance from Felipe, to be fair, when you look at all the drivers who finished ahead of him.
Yeah.
We've accused him of phoning it in
Yeah, but
for the last half of this season, and that is one thing you can't accuse him of doing this weekend.
No, they were always going to finish. The drivers that have finished ahead of Felipe were pretty much always going to finish ahead of Felipe. Not because it's Felipe Massa, but because of the car, the way the Williams has sort of regressed a little bit in development. It might mean that there's a Super Williams on the way for 2017. It might mean that they just don't have the budget to cope with
There's
all
all
the
the Stroll money coming in next season. So
yeah, we'll see what happens with Williams. But Felipe Massa, gentleman, retiring from the sport. He had a proper send off in Brazil.
yeah,
But
not the way that he wanted to go out in Brazil.
No,
obviously,
no.
but we talked about that 2 weeks ago.
yeah.
For both Jensen and Felipe, knowing that they're retiring, not going out like Barrichello did, not knowing if they've got a seat next year,
Yeah.
much better way to end
Yeah,
your
at
career.
least you know you're drawing a line under it. And
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, Button may have the coming back, but
But he's
saying
he's basically he's
I'm
saying that
retiring
happened.
and might have a route back rather than I hope I've got a seat next year.
Yeah.
which could, as we've already said tonight, be Gutierrez.
Yeah.
But then Bottas, pull the car in, drive into the garage, don't get out, we'll try and fix it. Did they actually say what the problem was with the car?
Rear suspension, wasn't it, with Williams?
Was it?
I think so.
I missed it entirely. Surely if it's rear suspension, that's done.
Well, when Jensen's front suspension broke, Martin Brundle was saying that can be fixed. It'll take a while, but it'd let him finish the race.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't saying, he was begging and pleading.
Pretty
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
yeah.
Let him out, let him do some donuts.
He'd had a phone call from Lee, I think.
Yeah.
It wasn't even Martin Brundle, it was just my Martin Brundle impression.
Martin Brundle this week was brought to you by Lee and raccoons.
I used to love the raccoons.
Totally expected Bottas' performance right up to the point where he retired. Didn't do badly, didn't do spectacularly well, got on with it.
He probably would have pushed Fernando out of the points if he'd carried on and finished the race. But we saw Valtteri passing Felipe, and then Felipe passing Valtteri. So we had a bit of a team battle.
good couple of dices with each other.
Which they've been teammates for 4 years or 3 years, and it was 3 or 4 years, 16, 15, 14.
Yeah.
3 years. They've been teammates for 3 years, and it was good to see them have one last on track battle.
Yeah.
Just before they Bottas has to. He's not the new boy anymore. Far from it. There is actually a new boy coming into that team.
I tell you what, like this could be the end of Bottas.
Could be.
If
I know what you mean. Stroll comes in and walks all over him. Yeah.
Stroll's all over him.
Stroll's all over him. Way.
I try to stay away from that. He's where is he? Yeah, where's
Bottas.
that? Yeah, where's that?
It depends on the Williams for next year. To be quite honest with you.
But even so, he's been outdone by Massa. Where's the world champion? Where's the world champion elect that we had when we?
We left him at Silverstone in the rain in 2015.
Well, someone needs to come pick him up.
When it started raining, that Valtteri Bottas washed into the drains, and we were left with the washed out Valtteri Bottas that we got now.
Yeah, we need to see a big resurgence from him next year.
Well, from the whole team.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
absolutely. But I mean, Valtteri
not
Bottas
gonna
is
happen.
Valtteri Bottas is much like his compatriot Kimi Raikkonen, not in the way that he talks because he says an awful lot more than Raikkonen,
Yeah.
but in the way that he drives. When he's got the car underneath him and it suits him and his driving style, he's very good. That hasn't been him at Williams for the last year and a half.
Do you know
2
why
years.
Williams is fucked next year? Do you know why they're
Go on.
fucked next year? Because all the success they've had was by building a solid car and putting a really fast engine in it. And over the course of since the hybrid era has gone, that advantage that they had from the first year of the hybrids has been watered down to the point where it really doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And their big falling is aerodynamics.
Well, yeah, because we said at the beginning of the year, this 2016 Williams looks exactly like the 2015 Williams, just with a tiny little bit of difference here and there. Some cars went quite radical approach. Force India, for example, with that snorty
The nostrils,
Yeah, the nostrils, and they had a very strange wing, didn't they, in the front of their car to start with at testing, but they binned that off. It obviously didn't work. But yeah, I want to see the pack tighten up a little bit. But if Williams are more competitive with the half reset we've got for next year as they were in 2014, I think you might see that resurgent Valtteri Bottas. But he's got to have that car underneath him, just like Kimi Raikkonen's got to have that car underneath him.
Yeah, see, I'm a massively intelligent yet very humble man, and even I'm
Also incredibly modest.
You're the most modest people most of us know. Person.
And,
Do you know what? With an attitude like that, you would make an excellent blues guitarist.
yes, but even I'm surprised just how right I've been about Williams.
yeah, you've been spot on the money. Yeah.
Next up, Force India again finishing line astern. Perez 8th, Hulk 7th, although Hulk did run 5th at one point.
Hulkenberg was running 5th during the round of second pit stops.
It's always good to see.
It's fantastic to see Hulkenberg running 5th. It'd be nice if he finished a race in the top 3, though. But that's a little way off.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Force India, for securing that 4th place from Williams as well. They had to wait until Abu Dhabi to do it, to have it confirmed. But
well deserved.
Force India 4th. Now, I laughed this time last year when Force India had somebody interviewed by Sky and said, "Oh, congratulations, you secured 5th place. Now what?" And he said, "Well, we've got to look forward. We've got to try for 4th next year. As silly as that may sound, we have to aim for it because we finished 5th, and we've got to look forward. We can't think 5th is great. Let's do that again next year. We've got to try and get 4th." And I went, "Ha! Force India 4th," and they've done it.
So did they have a similar interview this year?
I hadn't seen it, if they have, because if they have, Ferrari might find themselves in extremely hot water.
I think it'd be a heck of an achievement for them to
Absolutely,
jump
they've
into
got.
that top 3.
We talk about Williams and their budget. Force India probably have a smaller budget than Williams.
I'd say they've got a much smaller. Don't forget, Williams have got the historic winners bonus and everything,
Yeah.
don't they?
Yeah, Force India have got Jordan's bonus.
Well, Jordan won't get a bonus.
No, exactly. And Midland as well. Don't forget that they have the Midland bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, they won't have a bonus.
Oh, and
for that
Spike.
either.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, well, no, Adrian Sutil led a race for Spike.
You're missing the winner part from historic winners bonus.
God, yeah. You're quite right. Yeah. Anyway, 7th and 8th for Force India in Abu Dhabi.
Proving that they were the 4th best team.
They were
Yeah, it's exactly where you'd expect them to finish,
Yeah.
really.
It,
All other things being equal.
yeah. Absolutely. Just what we were saying before about Massa finishing 9th, solid performance because everyone ahead of him was going to finish ahead of him. These two were always going to finish ahead of the Williams.
I wonder how the battle Williams and Force India have had. I wonder how far behind that's put their 2017 car development.
I don't know.
Well,
Because to them that position is like a championship. You know,
Yeah.
it's whenever you
with the amount of money that they get.
Yeah.
And would you sacrifice some performance in 2017
Yeah.
for the extra money in 2018?
Well, the thing is, this is Esteban Ocon is in Force India, isn't he, for next year?
Yes.
Esteban Ocon, I wonder if he's a payment for engines. You know what I mean? We'll put your driver in and discount your engines. I wonder if that's a similar thing. And there's no question at the start of 2017 who Force India expect to perform better. They've got to look to Sergio Perez for being in the team for 4 years.
Is it that long?
3 years. Oh, I'm getting lost. Well, I can't remember what year it is, Lee. But anyway,
1978.
years. Perez has been in that team for
Can it be
some-
1998 again?
no.
Because if it's 1998 again, that means next year's 2008. That means next year's 2009, and I was happy in 2009.
and heaven knows you're miserable now.
But I've lost my train of thought completely. Yeah, Esteban Ocon is going to be expected to perhaps not match Sergio Perez to start with in 2017. As the season develops, you know, depending on how good Esteban Ocon actually is, he may equal Sergio Perez, maybe even be ahead of him. Perez has to be on it as soon as 2017 rolls around.
Yeah.
Because if he's not, questions are going to start to be asked. Much in a similar way to Lance Stroll and Valtteri Bottas at Williams, Bottas has got to answer before he's questioned. So has Sergio Perez.
Yeah.
He's got to do the same at Force India. Otherwise,
It'll be interesting to see Ocon next year
I like
with a
Perez.
bit of stability behind him, because don't forget he's sort of rattled around 4 teams in total this year, because he's a Mercedes-owned driver that was lent to the Enstone team that became Renault, was at the Renault car launch, then got moved into a manor, and then partway through the season, or towards the end of the season, signs for Force India.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
Kvyat stayed within brands.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but that's effectively 4 teams that Ocon has had dealings with
this season.
this season.
I mean, it's good experience for him to having the dealings with the teams.
Yeah.
But he's only had half a season in Formula One.
Yeah.
So we won't know how good he is until next year. But
They
He
took a
came in
full-on
mid-season
gamble.
and he was...
he's been good.
Yeah.
He's been very good.
Yeah.
I am impressed with Esteban Ocon so far, and I hope he continues this rich vein of form.
Yeah, I mean, he's
with
proved
Force
proved
India.
himself in the races that he's had more than Rio Haryanto proved himself in the half season that he had.
Disagree.
Oh yeah.
You disagrey?
Yeah, I think
No,
Rio,
no, I don't.
I think Rio held up remarkably well in some cases against Verline.
See, I think he held up in a couple of cases against Verline.
Yeah, but I don't think Ocon's done anything. He hasn't put Verline in the shade.
No,
and,
but
and Verline's been the one that's been getting his car into Q2.
Yeah, but he's been matching Verline in races and beating Verline in races, and this is a guy who's only done
he's been close. I think
8 races.
he's been closer to Verline than Haryanto.
Yeah,
was.
he's been
With Haryanto, when he beat Verline, he was beating him by 1 place.
yeah.
When Verline beat Haryanto, sometimes it was by 10 places.
Yeah, but this is the thing. Like with the this is where I think it's wrong than putting drivers in a manner. If I know they've got to try and install drivers where they can, but there really is no room to show what a driver can do in that team.
I know what you mean, but at the same token, Danny Ricciardo started his career halfway through a season with Hispania.
Yeah, but even that car never showed what he could do.
No, I'm
and
just saying that it gave him the experience
it
of being
got him
in
into
Formula One.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I just I don't think Ocon or Verline have done anything to show me that they're like Verstappen level, or the next people.
I think you can't really sort of compare them to. You can't really compare them to Verstappen because he is just a level above Verline and Ocon.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean you can't compare them. It means he's better. So when you compare them, he's better.
But he came in a car that's a level above
Oh,
them,
yeah, of
and
course
then
it is.
moved
Yeah,
to a
yeah.
car that's a whole different world away.
Different formula almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see how he would do
Yeah, the
in a
one-
manner. Would he destroy them, or would he would you see the same sort of thing as you see from Verline, where quite often he's close to his teammate
Yeah.
and occasionally half a field away?
Yeah. I don't know. I just think that I don't. Apart from the probable money off engines they're getting, if I was Force India, I wouldn't have had either of them.
I think they had a choice between Ocon and Verline, and they chose Ocon.
Yeah.
And
Because by all accounts, Verline is a bit of a prick.
Is it Leclerc who's their test driver?
no, Chelis.
Chelis.
He
seems quite handy as well.
Well, you know what? He did FP1 in Abu Dhabi, and he was not terrible. He was 11th fastest in FP1.
Yeah, he was.
Wasn't it 10th down on Perez?
Something like that.
Time, yeah. It was
Something about
like that.
10th down on Perez. Jordan King tested in the Manor as well. I know we've already spoken about Manor.
But you never know what fuel loads are. Don't forget, Jolyon Palmer was.
Yeah, but Jordan King was very slow.
Yeah.
But then again, he hasn't had a lot of running in the car.
Jordan
so.
King was the slowest driver to complete a flying lap.
Yes.
Because you can't really count Danny Kvyat's time because he was over 2 minutes.
Yeah, he was.
Seeing as how we're talking about new drivers here, and we've already gone past McLaren. Next year, I'm really interested in what
No
Stoffel
thanks, I've already
does.
eaten.
I'm really interested in it because, for when we had Virtual Statman on, he raised something that I wish I'd asked him about it when he was on. To be perfectly honest, it didn't dawn on me until after he'd gone. But he was saying about how certain drivers that come up through the junior formulas, when they get to Formula One and all of a sudden they've got the extra horsepower, just don't seem to be able to cope. You know, when
some drivers get better with extra horsepower,
Yeah.
some fall away with the horsepower.
So you've got Stoffel, which ripped apart GP2 and hasn't done amazingly well in Super Formula, which is more powerful cars.
But the one race where he was in the McLaren,
Yeah.
he
scored the first points for the team this season.
I realise that, but it's like that it was such a lucky thing. He drove a good race, don't get me wrong, but he didn't race that car into the points.
No,
it was the first chance McLaren had to win points, and he was the driver who was.
It was shenanigans involved.
I think Super Formula is 8 rounds, something like that, in Japan. Stoffel Vandoorne did win one of them, at least one of them. I don't know how he closed off the season, but he was on the podium a couple of times as well. And
he was also 12th and 15th in a couple of races.
He had massive failures in a couple of races as well.
But like I said, I just think I'm not saying he's going to do badly. I have no idea. But he's such an unknown quantity to be going into a team that desperately needs to perform.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be. But you see, and that's the other thing.
The thing is, if he performs and McLaren perform, you're looking at Stoffel Vandoorne being he's the saviour.
Oh yeah, he's next for Verstappen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but if McLaren aren't performing, you could be looking at another driver to go through the McLaren meat grinder.
Yeah, Magnussen.
Yeah,
Magnussen Mark II.
Yeah.
What could have happened to Perez?
Yeah.
Stoffel finished 4th in the Super Formula Championship, and I've just seen how they work out the points for it. And
don't bother.
No.
Yeah.
But this is the other thing as well. When you look at that, he's come forth, but we look through the class of drivers that are in it as well, and isn't it essentially a field made up of failed Formula One drivers?
Couple of failed Formula One drivers, mostly Japanese drivers.
Who won?
Yuji Kunimoto. No. Andre Lotterer was 2nd. Names I recognise in here. Narain Carter-Kayan was 14th.
Kamui Kobayashi.
Kamui Kobayashi scored 1 point in the last race of the season. Bertrand Baguette.
Bertrand Baguette. I forgot about him.
Yep, he was there. He was a thing.
That sounds like you'd have your Bertrand Baguette before you have your Stoffel, wouldn't you?
You would, yes. You can buy them from the same shop. He got 4.5 points. This is where it just goes all over the bloody place.
Yeah. Don't try and work it. But yeah, it's going to be interesting watching the new class of 2017 and how well they do. But I've forgotten who we were talking about originally. Force India.
We were talking about Force India.
So yeah, but Force India finished the season in 4th place. They've got perhaps one of the most uncertain 2017s ahead of them, as opposed to most of the other teams.
We said this before, though, that Force India are going to be an unknown quantity next season. We said this time last year, and we said this time. Well, we say it every year.
And I'd say we're surprised in 2016 by Force India.
We are, yeah.
Yeah,
They've come 4th, so yeah, they were an unknown quantity.
yeah. 2015, start of the 2015 season, we didn't think they were even going to make the grid.
And I'm surprised that nobody else went with that nostril design. There must be. I mean, I'm sure some other teams must have tested it and been like, "Nah, we're not doing that because A, B, and C."
Yeah.
Given how everyone's adopted the size 0 back end that McLaren used.
So there's got to be something behind the front wheels and in front of the side pod in the Force India for that air being channeled through the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just a case of drilling 2 holes in the nose of the car. It's a case of, well, where does that air go and what do we do? What do we use it for?
Yeah.
Much like Red Bull with that pillar box that year, which was for driver cooling.
Yeah.
That's
why Mercedes have got a massive one as well now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course the McLaren F duct.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we should separate the top 3 teams in this. I think we should talk about the whole thing. Just for those last laps.
Yeah.
That sounds...
I don't know, because Mercedes were a class apart from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
The qualifying laps, Nico Rosberg was half a second faster than
anyone
else.
Except
Lewis Hamilton, who was 0.3 faster than that.
I mean, Lewis Hamilton knew what he had to do this weekend, and he did it. He was the fastest man in qualifying, and he was well out front in the race. And then when it got to that final stint, after the pit stops, where it's like, well, how are you going to punish me in the pit stops now? Because that's what the team had basically said to him. Look, if you back him up and you cause problems for him, we'll call him in first. But when there were no more pit stops to make, Lewis was like, I'll start doing laps about 5 or 6 seconds slower than I can.
9
was his last lap. His last lap was 9 seconds slower than his qualifying lap.
Yeah.
And quite often this year, we've seen the last laps of the race be around
about
qualifying
the
lap
same
pace.
time.
Yeah. If Lewis was second and Nico was leading away, we would have seen a super quick lap from Lewis Hamilton on that last lap. But he was trying to control the pace of the race. We know what he was trying to do. Back Nico up into Sebastian Vettel, Max Verstappen, Ricciardo was waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And on that last lap, because Lewis was so slow, that very nearly happened. Ricciardo joined the train right at the.
But you know what though? What like the worst thing about that, race wise, and competition wise, is the fact that Lewis could drive that slowly, and they still couldn't
overtake
do
him.
it.
Yeah, but Nico on team radio said, look, I can't get close to him to overtake him because he's really quick through sector 1.
Yeah.
So that means I can't get close to him on the straight. But then as soon as we're out of the straights and into that twisty last bit, he's slow as hell.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Like if he was backing them up that much and knocked, like you say, last lap knocking 9 seconds off, and Vettel still couldn't get close enough to try and to make the move.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
it shows how fast that car could have gone.
I think I think as well as Nico Rosberg being like, I don't want to lose this championship in the last few laps of the championship, I think Sebastian Vettel will have had a thought of like, I don't want to tangle with Nico Rosberg and be the bad guy here. I'm on for a podium, so I'm going to sit here and take third. Because if you'd said to Sebastian Vettel at the beginning of the weekend, Seb, do you fancy third being on that podium? He would have snapped your arm off.
I don't know.
Ferrari
I think he's in it for himself. If he'd have had a chance at second place on the podium and beaten a Mercedes, he'd have done it.
Well, he thought
A clean chance.
Yeah, he thought he was on for the win, but with the championship not being settled and it kind of being obvious what Lewis was doing, don't think Seb wanted any part of that. And a happy ending for Ferrari's year was not a Ferrari T-boning a Mercedes and costing somebody a world championship. It was a Ferrari finishing third
And gifting Red Bull a place on the podium.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Yeah, it was. Because that could have happened, which would have been terrible
Well, here's the question for you then.
for Ferrari. I mean,
I felt
One other point. Sorry, Lee. Sorry.
That's okay.
Vettel would have risked losing his third place in the championship.
fourth
place in the championship.
if Verstappen had got
to
past
Verstappen,
him.
yeah. So he may have been thinking about that.
Yeah. See, what I'm interested in is what you guys think. Like, how do you feel about what Lewis was doing?
I think the team made it absolutely clear that was unacceptable.
Yeah.
And it's because of the team saying it's wrong, it's a dick move.
Right.
I said podcasts ago that before the end of the season we'd see a driver or both drivers ignoring Mercedes team orders.
Yeah.
We saw that in that race, Lewis Hamilton doing it. He was essentially acting as a mercenary, not for Mercedes, trying to save himself a world championship. It's unfair, but I've got to copy Toto Wolff, and I'm not going to do the voice, but Toto Wolff said I can see on a personal level why he did what he did, but I've got to think of it. This is what Toto said. I've got to think of it as the technical sporting regulator of the team. So I've got to make sure that what happens within the team is fair and sticks to the team's core values, and that didn't. And when you've got a driver who's not sticking to the team's core values and is being told, not just by your race engineer, but also by technical director Paddy Lowe, that you need to pick up the pace. We know what you're doing, basically. That's what they were saying. Lewis, we know what you're doing. Pick up the pace, otherwise you're not going to win this race. It's questionable, and it was we had a very exciting last few laps of the race, but let's not forget that we only had that because Lewis Hamilton was being a bit of a tool by trying to back Nico Rosberg into the cars behind.
As well as being a dick move, fantastic driving, fantastic skill to be able to slow down that much and not give anyone a chance to overtake you.
He knew where to go fast. He knew where to go slow.
Yeah. See, personally, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing in the rules that says he did anything wrong, and that's what I would go for.
There's nothing in the rules of Formula One. There is obviously, judging by the fact that they got Paddy Lowe on the radio, there is something in the rules of Mercedes.
It was the core values thing that Toto spoke about. Core values of the team. You know, it's that's not what you want.
The brand is going to want to be seen as showing sportsmanlike behaviour.
I agree with Christian Horner though, where he said that if for Mercedes to have a go at Lewis Hamilton, like they almost didn't expect him to do that. If they didn't expect him to do that, they're naive.
They did expect him to do that because they warned him that he'd face consequences if he did that.
Absolutely.
So he did his best to avoid the consequences that he knew they could impose on him.
Yeah, and then did it after the consequences had passed.
Yeah.
Or the choice for consequence. I mean, there have been some crazy media stories floating around that Hamilton's facing the sack. He's not facing the sack. Basically, all Mercedes have said is, look, we're just enjoying the World Championships at the moment. We do need to speak to Lewis about it, but we decided not to do it after the race because it was a good celebration for Nico's championship.
Why take the shine off one of your drivers winning the World Championship by publicly berating the other driver?
And Toto said it's an internal matter for Mercedes.
Yeah, and that's the best way to handle it.
They might fine him. They might say, okay, for the first however many races of next year, you are essentially number 2 driver, and you don't get the new parts until at least mid-season.
Yeah.
And I think that would be fair because the team gave him orders.
Yeah,
and
that won't happen because we don't know what situation Mercedes are going to be in next year, and I don't believe that. Like, whichever way you look at it, in my opinion, you might think something completely different. You might think something wrong. in my opinion, that if you could only take one driver into battle, it would be Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And if Red Bull are up there next year and they're taking wins and points away from Mercedes, you want Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, but you want Nico Rosberg. If he's in second place and not as fast as Lewis, we don't know what the car's going to be like.
You want him to play the game.
You want him to obey team orders, not say, look, Lewis gets away with not.
But
not
I
doing
tell you
what
what you wouldn't want to do. You wouldn't want to give Rosberg preferential treatment for like the first half of the season, like you're saying there, only for Abu Dhabi to come around next year, Lewis to be 10 points down in the championship, and then go, maybe we shouldn't have given him preferential treatment for the first 6 races.
The problem is, by punishing Lewis Hamilton too harshly, Mercedes could put themselves in a position where they're actually punishing the entire team. Because it could be a case where the Red Bull comes out of the box and it's an absolute flyer. Mm-hmm. Mercedes concentrate their efforts just on Rosberg's car as a way of punishing Lewis.
And Rosberg doesn't get the job done over the course of the season against the Red Bulls.
Rosberg can't do it on his own.
Yeah.
They've got a chance where if they can have 2 top-notch competitive cars, they can get 2 cars on the podium to Red Bull's 1, albeit on the second and third steps. But if they've got a car that's slightly behind...
I can almost guarantee you now that the first day of testing it's going to be mid-February, isn't it?
Yeah.
First day of testing. That first day of testing, we'll see their Mercedes team turn up and try and do as many laps as possible, like they have done for the past 2 years. They'll turn up and they'll be like, look how many laps we can do. Whereas the Red Bull...
And I bet they won't be the fastest laps.
No. And the Red Bull will turn up and do the fastest time.
Well, what was it? Mercedes ran something like 3 Grand Prix per driver per day.
Yeah, which is why they wore their drivers out before the end of the test.
Yeah.
In February.
Don't forget, though, last year for the testing, didn't the Red Bull look like a fucking shambles at first?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
It was McLaren testing bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't.
And
shocking.
Weren't the Force Indias the fastest ones?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they were.
They were bag sanding, though.
Yeah, we said bag.
We
said bag
called it bag
sanding
sanding at the start of the season. Rosberg has actually come out and said he's praised Lewis for what he did and said he executed it perfectly.
He wouldn't have done that if he'd lost the championship.
No. It's always easy to be magnanimous in victory.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though. Let's just before we get into what Rosberg said, Lewis and Nico, they did have a bit of a quick hug beforehand. Before they went up to the podium, and Lewis did congratulate Nico.
Yeah, Lewis went over to Nico and gave him the hug to say.
And they shook hands afterwards as well. And I'm sure Lewis probably didn't stick around for the title celebrations in the garage, but he. In fact, I think Mercedes actually tweeted a photo saying, it's that time again with the spraying champagne, except we're missing a couple of folk, and I couldn't see Lewis in the photo. But the. But that's understandable. You wouldn't expect the person who just essentially lost out on the World Championship to sit there and celebrate with the person who just had.
No.
But
I thought Lewis was very good on the podium as well.
Yeah, he was gentlemanly about it. I think he kind of half expected it, to be honest with you. But
I tell you what, he was better at losing the championship than Rosberg was the last 2 years.
Yeah.
In front of media-wise, definitely. And his on-track response after
you can't really sort of say anything for the 2014 one because that was the car that failed him in a race where he could have still won.
Yeah.
2014 in Abu Dhabi, he was genuinely destroyed because something that had nothing to do with him personally and the way that he drove the car had let him down.
2015 in Abu Dhabi, the same. Well, was it? Oh no, 2015 he won, didn't he?
2015 he won the race, but the
2014 that was. I was really impressed by Rosberg.
They said I want to go to the end.
Saying,
I want to go to the end. I don't care how slow I'm going. I just want to finish this race. But
that's what Jolyon Palmer says, but there's nothing wrong with the car.
But yeah, Lewis was more mature than I've got to be honest. I expected him to be. I was thinking we'd just get the I am going to say all the corporate stuff that I've been told to like a robot.
No, we did.
But
get,
he didn't.
No, we did get a little bit of a post race interviews where the three of them are sat down, the three podium sitters are sat down, and it was just like it was mechanical failures. That's what handed it to Nico. He did say that in the post race
still
press
think
conference.
right. I still think that's right.
Oh no, yeah, of course he is. But I mean, post race. I mean, retirements are part and parcel of what happens in Formula One. They just
yeah, of course.
They just are.
Just didn't
mechanical
have to happen
failures.
to Rosberg.
No, exactly. Rosberg had zero engine failures.
He had no failures that took him out of a race.
Yeah,
he had a couple of problems here and
or
there.
qualifyings. Yeah. He's so he kept his car reliable for the whole season. You could argue.
I don't know whether their driving styles make that much difference. I think
I think it was just
clean bad luck.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
But if you work backwards as well from the podium, we've already said about how wonderful it was to see Ferrari on the podium in the last race of the season. Max
we're
Verstappen,
hoping for them to have a resurgence now.
I'm not gonna wax lyrical again about Max Verstappen, but last after the first corner and finished P4.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with him getting driver of the day again.
Where would he have finished if he hadn't spun at that first corner?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? I bet Lewis wonders this as well.
If Max hadn't have spun at the first corner, we wouldn't have seen Lewis do what he did at the end of the race.
No,
because
Max would have been ahead of Lewis.
Yeah.
Well, everyone's strategies would have been different.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I think we'd have seen a battle between Lewis and Max, possibly. Lewis would have been going a lot faster because he would have had somebody up with him that's not afraid to make a move.
Saying that, the only other thing is, if he hadn't spun on the first corner, it might not have made Red Bull put him on that strategy.
Well, he was going to one stop anyway, we think.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, before the race there was mumblings, wasn't there, that Max might one stop, or Red Bull possibly thinking of a double one stop for both cars, but Max did go with the one stop after that spin. So
it was another great race. And I tell you what, the Rosberg's overtake on him as well.
Oh yeah.
That was tremendous.
Heart in mouth.
There was no way that you'd have expected Rosberg to try and make that move from that far back with what was at stake.
Well, that's it. You know, if you say that that Nico went into the weekend with one hand on the trophy on the World Championship, he literally put the trophy down for a minute to make that move and then put his hand back on it.
Yeah, you've seen so many times this season people trying to overtake Max Verstappen.
And it doesn't work.
It almost went wrong. They could have so easily touched during that move.
Yeah. I mean, Max is good at pushing people out wide.
Yeah.
It was sort of...
I think maybe he had to come from that far back so that Max wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
To the point where they've made a rule about Max is moving under braking.
Yeah.
So that's and I actually thought during that move Max did move under braking. He moved to cover over Rosberg after he'd started braking.
You said that at the time because
but it wasn't picked up on. There was no collision, so it was
no harm, no foul.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no harm, no foul.
Yeah. Kimi, workmanlike performance.
Yeah, I mean, not terrible by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, you got those long shots of those cars coming down that kilometre-long back straight, and you had Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen before Vettel passed him. You have Vettel behind Verstappen, then you had Ricciardo, and then only a little bit behind Kimi Räikkönen. He wasn't that far away, really. He obviously, Abu Dhabi being the site, was it his last win? Was that Kimi's last win?
I think it might have been. Yeah. He knew what he was doing, and we all had to leave him alone. And yes, you don't have to tell me every 10 seconds.
I mean,
though that time he started from fourth, came first, and this time he started from fourth, came sixth.
Yeah, but even still, I don't think he would be too displeased with that, to be honest with you.
How would you tell?
You wouldn't be able to, would you? You'd only be able to tell by how well stocked the vodka and chalk ice fridge was afterwards. So
I don't think that was Kimi at his best.
No, it wasn't. But like I said before, when I compare Bottas to Raikkonen, he needs that car to be perfect for him in order to do well. And he had a good Ferrari at times at the beginning of the season, and it's just sort of boiled away from him a little bit as the season's gone on.
And I think with the way that Vettel drove the car for the entirety of the race, that Ferrari was a Vettel Ferrari this weekend.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. Sixth is the best you could expect from Kimi when it's somebody else's car, effectively. Daniel Ricciardo, how do we think?
Had he been on the same strategy as Max, he could have been mixing it up, and I think that would have been Lewis's best chance of retaining the title. Would have been if both Red Bulls had one stopped and Max hadn't had lots of ifs going on here. But
I'd have liked to have seen what happened.
Or if a giant anvil had fallen on Nico Rosberg's
If a giant
car.
anvil had fallen, if the goalkeeper hadn't saved that, that would have been a goal.
Yeah. I think Red Bull possibly had the. They had a couple of laps there where they probably should have let Ricciardo through.
Yeah,
because he was getting held up by Max, and he had younger tyres, and I wonder whether if they'd have let Max, if they'd have let Danny through, whether he'd have been able to get far enough up the road to save that podium. Yeah, well, why are you saying that? I suppose it would matter because Lewis was backing them back, so he couldn't get too far up the road. But do you know what I mean?
Don't forget that at another point in the race, it was Verstappen backing everyone up.
Yeah.
And he actually let the Ferraris get on the back of the train with Rosberg and Ricciardo.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe they sort
it was
of
a
dropped the ball
complicated
little
race,
bit.
that wasn't it?
Well,
really?
it was from the pit stop to the end of the race was complicated.
Yeah, and it was tense. Like I said, it was a tense final few laps, but it was to the point where, I was on the edge of my seat, fists clenched, buttocks clenched, biting nails. Like I don't know what's gonna happen here. Nerves jangling, but
Sounds like my sex life.
Just don't take photos of it and send them to Snappy Snaps. That's one for the patrons.
It is.
Paywall. Better go and give us $1.
But yeah, it's let's not forget that race was only as tense as it was at the end because of Hamilton's antics, should we say?
Not anvils.
Not anvils. No anvils. This is not Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
I think we have covered all the drivers and all the teams.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much.
Do we agree with the vote for driver of the day being Vettel?
Yes.
I think Max, considering he was last.
I think Vettel or Max would have deserved it.
Yeah, I think Vettel deserved it. I'm not going to say, oh no, Vettel didn't deserve it because...
No, Lewis Hamilton, because if it wasn't for him, it would have been a boring race. It would have been, if he hadn't been playing games, it would have been a really boring, dull race.
You do realise in that case, what does Formula One need to improve the show?
Slow leaders.
Slower Hamiltons.
But
I do find it funny, that all year Lewis Hamilton's been on the radio so many times going, I can't drive any slower than this. Clearly
That's a lie.
Pants on fire.
Big
moment of the
lie.
season.
Perhaps, on the other hand, if they hadn't given him so much practice at driving really slowly.
Yeah, Mercedes, we're looking at you for this one. You messed up.
Created a monster.
No, I think Lewis was already a monster before he signed for him.
He's got Monster on his
Yeah.
Monster Energy on his collar, hasn't he?
Where should we go next?
Go to-
It says news.
There's not much, there really is there.
No,
This week, nothing's happened apart from the championship, which we've just talked about.
which
so,
we've basically covered. BBC getting things wrong, NBC getting things wrong.
No, hang on. I want to call out the BBC on this because this is rubbish.
Go on, then.
BBC have been very unfair to Nico Rosberg. Very unfair to Nico. Almost like a Lewis Hamilton fan club or a fanzine.
I haven't read it.
Have you not?
No.
One of the
the lead headline
on BBC Sport Formula One page.
the day that Nico Rosberg wins the title,
Yeah.
is
Congratulations, Nico Rosberg, on your World Championship.
no.
No.
It's Nico's never going to be as good as Lewis.
Why Rosberg will never be Hamilton's equal.
Yeah, the season of Rosberg's life, but he'll never be Hamilton's equal.
Yeah. And then there's another one that says, vote for your
Would you
favourite.
not agree with that, though?
Vote for your... Hang on, but
Whether you agree or not, give him some credit. He's just won a world championship.
Well, yeah.
statistically, if he goes and wins the next 2 world championships...
No, but they're not talking statistically, are they, though? They're
No,
talking
but-
about talent.
But, okay, but at the same token, maybe Hamilton will, even with his 3 world championships, maybe he'll never ever match Ayrton Senna. Statistically, he's already passed him.
Vettel's got more world championships than Ayrton Senna. Who's the better driver?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, so there's that as well. But there's a vote on the BBC website, which is vote for your favourite one-time world champion.
I've got a funny feeling on the BBC website Jenson Button might take that, or Damon Hill.
Okay,
Yeah, but Nico Rosberg...
Which one would you vote for?
No,
Jenson
it's
Button.
not that Rosberg is not eligible for it, being only a one-time world champion. But
So far.
so far, exactly. But they're putting him in the same category as people who only ever won one title.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, he's only ever going to win one.
They're just.
Do you know what I mean?
They're
It's-
just filling column inches.
Yeah, but it comes across like a Hamilton fan club. And okay, if it was Lewis Hamilton fan club, nothing wrong with that opinion.
Yeah.
But this is supposed to be the BBC.
Yeah, but I don't all fucking.
I'm attacking the BBC here.
Don't all countries favour their country's drivers? I was.
Yeah,
The
but
BBC
do
is
it with a
supposed-
bit of class.
Yeah, and the BBC are supposed to be impartial. Supposed to be impartial.
Let's
And
not.
they're
Let's
not,
not
but
forget
normally it's
how
okay.
the Germans took Schumacher. There was no class with that.
I mean, the BBC's motto is "Nation shall speak in peace unto nation," which you could also use for Nico Rosberg's passport collection.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to get that one in somewhere.
What was it? Was it pre-podcast where you're mentioning what Vettel said in his post-race interview?
Yeah, it was
German world champion.
Yeah, Vettel was asked in the media pit interviews afterwards. You know, how do you feel about another German world champion? I said, German, not German. He's world champion. It was kind of a sort of dig,
but veiled.
but veiled
Yeah.
is the best way to
I
describe
wonder
it.
if Vettel listens to us. Hi, Seb.
I'm sure he does.
Yeah,
I think he'd find us quite funny.
I think so too. He's
Yeah.
got a good sense of humour.
He sure is German. No. Self-censorship.
Self-censored. You said it.
I know.
You can't.
I cut the last syllable off.
What were you going to say? Nazi twat or something?
Moving swiftly on, let's talk about Formula E instead.
Okie dokie.
Yes.
Because-
Speaking of Nazis.
Yes, it's time for Formula E. So we had a total of 24 entrants for this 2-week-long Formula E, which was
I
Lee?
think there's only 22 slots on the grid, isn't there?
There is, yeah. So some people didn't qualify. So Lee, what were we doing in this 2-week challenge? We were at Abu Dhabi,
Dhabi Williams
in a Williams
at dusk
at dusk.
In the dry.
Yeah, because in the wet, I did a practice lap in the wet. It was a terrible idea. It was awful. Also driving around the desert in the wet.
I pretty much fucked it off this week. There's been far too many games to play.
Yeah, which is why you're not in the top 10 this
Which
week.
is why I beat you. Right, I've known you 16 years. This is the first time I've ever beaten you at any video game ever. I've done it. I may not have scored a point, but I've finally beaten you at something.
There are, however, 2 of us in the top 10.
I think we've got some underlying issues to my left.
Yeah. And neither of them are Paul or Lee.
Can we make an honorary mention
We can.
for 11th place again?
11th place again. Esteban.
Esteban Forsyth Gutierrez.
Didn't he say he was going to stop patronising us?
Isn't this the 4th time he's finished 11th?
Let me have a look. If we go back to Singapore, that's the first one. No, that was me.
You're the original Gutierrez.
Yeah, in Malaysia, Ed finished 11th. In Japan, Ed finished 11th.
Ed, I'm so
He
sorry.
didn't in the USA. He didn't in Mexico, But then Brazil and Abu Dhabi, he was back on form.
11th.
And out of the 6 races of the season so far, Ed has finished 11th. Sorry, the 6 races of the season, Ed has finished 11th 4 times.
Yes. Wonderful. So we'll start then. It was an honorary mention, as we say, for all the times go up on the website, by the way. So if you don't hear your name and you're thinking, "Oh, I couldn't have been that far outside the top 10," then come over to the website, have a look, and see exactly where you did, along with everybody else. So in 10th place is our very own Dan, a return to the points after being in the points early on in the season,
and then doing nothing for several races.
Nothing for several races, but Dan
filling
gets
the
a
role
point.
of Haas.
Yeah.
Dan gets a point with a 1:41.201. So that was the cut-off time for the top 10. And in 9th place, me.
Wait, that makes me faster than Lewis Hamilton, doesn't it?
In the last lap, yes. Yeah. Everyone, I think,
Everyone was faster than Lewis Hamilton in the last lap.
Yeah. Then in 9th place is me. I 141.150. So that's I'm getting quite good at scoring points. Low end of points. Which drivers are scoring low end of points?
Alonso.
That makes me Fernando Alonso.
That's a good place to be.
Yeah. McLaren Fernando. Oh, hang on.
He's
Then
still got that girlfriend. It's fine.
In 8th place is Darren Entwistle with a 141.134. So just ahead of me there, Darren. You're doing very well there. James Penny's next with a 141.041. And James Holman, another James, just ahead of him with the first of the 140s, a 140.765. Then we get into the top 5, and I've got these next two on my. I've got Pete is on my PlayStation list. Pete is in the top 5 with a 140.7. Pete Bull, and then in 4th place, Chris Rowden with a 140.589. And then it's the podiums. In 3rd place, it's the Flying Flynn, Dave Flynn, with a 140.566. In 2nd place is last week's winner, Conor McIlroy, or last time's winner, sorry. Conor McIlroy with a 140.199. And this winner of the last round of Formula League for the year, possibly, depending on what Lee decides, Josh Stewart. Not Derek Schleicher. We didn't have a time.
We didn't have a time from Derek this race.
So 139.887, the only driver to get under 140 is Josh Stewart. So congratulations,
he also listens to
Josh.
my band's new album this afternoon. So well done, Josh.
Josh,
yes,
excellent. And Josh is a musician. Josh is a musician.
The top 2 musicians, because Connor is as well.
Connor, does Dave play anything?
Don't know. Dave Flynn, let us know if you play musical instruments.
do they-
Don't start.
No, what do they play?
Josh
Music.
Josh is a singer and Connor's a bass player.
So there's one musician and a bass player.
So yeah, thanks very much for everyone for taking part. Keep an eye out because we might put something up, just a quick Formula League challenge throughout the winter.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm really thinking about doing this sort of some challenges on project cars as well. So message me and tell me who's got project cars, because there's more tracks, more cars, more fun.
Yeah, we don't want to exclude anyone from it either. So if you know,
if you haven't got it, just buy it. Then you're not.
So yeah, we'll see what happens over the winter, but keep your eyes peeled because there might be a Formula League challenge or two.
We all watch the most middle class sport in the fucking world, apart from maybe golf. I'm sure you got 20 quid to buy a video game.
Well, no, because it costs us that much to watch Formula 1 these days.
And then once you spend that 20 quid, you can then go and give us 20 quid a month on Patreon.
Yes, $20.
$20.
$20.
Like £20. Well, it's nearly £20. Mailbag.
Yeah, let's go through some mailbags.
Yeah, we'll have a look at some. I've got some emails here. I'll start with Ed. He sent us a season analysis spreadsheet that he's put together for us, which we'll look at.
Was it Ed Forsyth?
Yes.
Esteban Gutierrez.
He sent us what?
Sent us a spreadsheet with his analysis of the 2016 season for driver performance.
Why, I bet you've got all the girlfriends.
Because he says, I'm a spreadsheet nerd.
Spreadsheets can be cool.
Yeah,
and I haven't seen this one that Ed sent through yet. So
I haven't actually had a chance to have a look at it properly as well, because this came in actually
whilst we've been recording,
just as we were starting to record.
How did he have time?
Do you know what? He's essentially his very own virtual stat man.
Yeah, but how did he have time to put the spreadsheet together when he was fending off all that poon?
Stop it.
I think.
Well, no, because he did the spreadsheet in the time that he should have been playing Formula League to improve on his 11th place.
Right.
There we go.
And P.S. If I'm 11th again, I'm stopping my Patreon support. Smiley. I have actually.
Please don't. It's the most interesting thing about you.
Lee, stop abusing Ed. Ed's been in contact for a long time. He's a long time listener of ours. Let's not upset him too much.
We're all friends.
For now.
Used to be a long time listener.
Sorry, Paul. Carry on with Ed's very interesting spreadsheet.
That's the end of Ed's spreadsheet. We'll go through it in greater detail. We'll put it up on the website as well if you don't mind, Ed. Share it with everyone because he's tracked positions for drivers, and we can actually see where drivers have performed best.
Well, I still have to have a look at that.
You see, you're interested now.
No, I'm not.
I would say go away, but we're sat in your house. Moving swiftly on. Stephen Waugh from Glasgow. So that's 2016 done, and what a year it was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, it's got its moments, definitely.
Yeah. I know that you aren't really NICO fans, but we have to agree that he deserved it in the end, and from Mercedes' point of view, having 2 world champions will look better for their marketing.
Absolutely,
Yes.
yeah, spot on.
Totally.
They've now turned into one of those teams that create world champions, essentially.
They have, yeah.
Yes. A few questions for discussion. What was each of your drives of the year? Now, I don't think we should answer this one now off the cuff because we are going to be doing a couple of season review shows.
Yeah, we've got stuff to go through during the winter. We are sort of planning podcasts ahead in advance because, of course, we've got no races or any big breaking news as far as we know coming during the winter. We've got.
I think we can all give one really quick answer to that, and it'll be the same one for all of us. So,
Jensen Button, Canada 2011.
Admittedly, there wasn't a particular year specified, but I was assuming it meant 2016.
Yeah, that was my favourite race this year.
Lee's got it on his Sky box and a Sky Plus box, and he watches it every day.
And he's got the DVD, and he's got it saved on his phone and his tablet, and he can access that race from wherever he is.
It's on loop when you go to the toilet as well. He's got a little iPad just stuck in the wall.
So yeah, let's make that excluding Verstappen's race in Brazil. What was our favourite?
Yeah,
because that's the obvious choice.
That's going to be the obvious one. But we'll talk about our drives of the year in the review show.
Yeah.
Who do you think will fill the last seats at Sauber and 2 seats at Manor? Short answer:
Eric Boulier would fill all of those
at the same time.
I think we're going to see Verline and Jordan King at Manor. I think Verline will just stay at Manor. At Manor. And I think at Sauber, Esteban Gutierrez will go back in alongside Ericsson. I kind of hope Felipe Nasr keeps his seat, but don't think he will.
If he's not got the backing, he won't have a seat in Sauber.
I quite like Gutierrez to get the seat just so I can continue to slack him off for another season.
Do you got somebody else to mock?
Yeah.
Or can we have Maldonado back?
Do you know what? If he's got the money.
If he's got the money, because he was claiming earlier on this year that there might be a chance that he would be able to get the sponsorship.
Yeah, but Haryanto was saying that as well.
Yeah, true. But Sauber are a team that is desperate for the cash. And wouldn't you like the return of the Pasta disaster predictor?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We all would.
All day long.
Compared to 2015, we've got a hell of a lot more listeners. We've got a hell of a lot more listeners that get in touch. How many people would be writing in with the Pasta disaster predictor every week?
For those of you who may not have experienced the Pasta disaster predictor before, it was basically a case of before a race weekend, we would all sort of crowd around and say, right, guess when Pasta Maldonado is going to crash out of the race or retire. And Lee, every week, went with lap 1, turn 1.
And I won the championship.
Yes. Lee won the Pasta Disaster Predictor Championship, but just by going lap 1, turn 1 every single time. I try to be clever, and when we go like for lap 1, turn 3.
Dan crazily predicted points finishes a couple of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He said points finish for Maldonado.
I got it right once or twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that when he had half his wing hanging off in Spain? Was it last year?
Which time that he had half his
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah,
in Spain last year.
yeah.
Yeah, there was lap 8, there was lap 27.
So yeah, the return of the pasta disaster predictor, and people used to send their predictions in as well, and we did have a couple of really close and some spot on predictions as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good game to play.
Yeah,
So
so
for that reason alone, I'd like to see Pasta Maldonado back in Formula One.
And another question is, has Lee been kept well stocked with tissues to dry the tears of Jensen's departure?
Always got plenty of tissues around my
No,
house.
right, okay, yeah, we're done there. We're done.
And that's that one over
and
with.
we are done with that.
Anything else in the mailbag?
Yeah,
in
we
particular?
have...
Nothing left in the bag. That's where we got the tissues.
No.
No one could say no. I've already said
I
these
know,
things.
I know. Well, no, because I can see where the spike is when I say no in there, and I might be able to drop Jacques Villeneuve in over the last thing you said before it. Agent Q.
Oh, hello, Agent Q.
Lewis lost the championship because of mechanical failures, i.e. Mercedes poorly constructed some components. To fix them, Lewis had to pay the penalties via grid spots and DNFs. Why not, instead of grid spots, don't they dock the team constructor points? To me, this is a tricky one.
It is, because they punish the drivers for things that aren't always necessarily the driver's fault. When the team makes an error or if something breaks and the team have to replace it, the driver gets penalised.
But the way the driver drives can influence how long the components last.
Yeah, I mean, you could get super
Pasta Maldonado.
That wasn't what I had in
Lap
mind.
1,
but-
turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why Lotus ran out of money, because of all the front wings that they kept having to buy for Pasta. But
And then Haas used reconditioned ones.
Yeah, that's what. Grosjean's old front wings from the Enstone team. But yeah, it's a difficult one, because when the team makes an error, the driver's punished, and it could. In some cases, it's not that the driver has done anything wrong at all. It's a team error, and yeah, it's unfortunate that it's always like a preemptive punishment before the next race. Like a grid drop or something like that. It's designed to hurt the team, but in the end, it also hurts the driver's championship.
But anything you do that hurts the driver hurts the team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. So in that respect, it's. Are they punishing the driver or are they punishing the car? Because they say, well, that car's got to go back a few grid spots for the next race, and it just happens to be that a driver has to take the fall when they punish a car for a failure or a rule break.
It gets confusing when it gets to things like drivers getting a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release. That's something that the team's got wrong, but the driver
Could have
benefited from.
I think constructors' points makes the most sense, because that it really does hurt a team constructors' points.
Yeah, but if you penalise the driver by putting him back on the grid,
Yeah.
the constructor loses points as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it's so. Doesn't that mean that just knocking a couple of constructors' points off does the job and doesn't harm the racing?
Yeah, because then the driver is still in the position that they would be by racing.
Yeah.
But the constructors aren't going to get the full whack of points.
Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, you could stick a Mercedes this year on the back of the grid, and that Mercedes is still going to end up on the fucking podium.
But
So
there's not many things that the teams can do that help the team but not the drivers. Now that team orders are allowed.
Whether the drivers listen to them or not is another question.
yeah.
But now that team orders are allowed, is there anything that the teams can do that they would deserve punishment for that doesn't help their drivers?
It would be the like gearbox replacements and stuff like that. That's what gets me.
Ooh, I've just thought of something mental. Completely mental.
Cats driving pigs.
No,
No.
worse than that. I'm talking
Pigs driving cats.
I'm talking Bernie Eccleston levels of mental.
Shit.
Sprinklers.
Save up all of the penalties throughout the season, and then implement them all at the last race. Double points Abu Dhabi, double penalties Abu Dhabi.
I love the idea that everyone would have so many penalties that by the time they were all added on, the grid would just be the same as it would be anyway.
Yeah, there is that possibility.
Yeah, but do it.
But then you'd
do-
have-
do
then
it
you'd
like
have,
the 2015 system where you get 137 place grid penalties and actually measure that out from the start line.
And like 12, if you've accumulated like 10-second penalties throughout the season, but you haven't taken them, you're gonna have to take them at the last race.
Let's not do that.
No.
Right.
Eccleston levels. Of
Thank you,
mental.
Agent Q. I agree with you. I think it should be
Yeah,
constructors' points.
constructors' points is perhaps a better way of doing it. I don't know what system you'd have to work out in order to do that, but that seems fairer than punishing the driver. Although, again, as Dan pointed out before, when you add the drivers' points together, that's what makes the team points.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're taking away the team points, you also,
Yeah.
that's the total of drivers' points. So, does that come down from?
No, you don't. You don't change the drivers' points. You just change the team points.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. The team points are an accumulation of drivers' points.
But Alonso can't have Stoffel's point. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
It's I think fair enough. It's the same number that's used, but points aren't a physical thing.
Yeah.
So it's not
okay.
like the driver picked the points up and then gives them to the team.
No. But what I'm saying is, okay, put it this way. Let's say McLaren had 5 points taken away from them for some technical infringement, and it was so terrible this year that the FIA decided that McLaren needed 5 points taken away from them. Stoffel Van Dorn sat there and going, well, my point was for fuck all then.
But it's the team that's it's taken off the team.
Yeah, but he scored that point for the team,
but still
for himself as well.
His point. It's not Formula One's fault. He took part in one race.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying as well. It would impact on the drivers even if you only took it off the team.
No, because that makes no difference to him scoring a point.
He still scored a point, but you look at him being like he scored McLaren's first point of the season, and then if they go, well, we're taking 5 points away. Well,
that's what penalties are for. Though you couldn't not do it because it might upset a driver that their point didn't mean as much.
yeah, but it would make more sense, that system regardless anyway. So
I just think we're better for racing, so that's why I mean.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Tweet from Robert Higgins. Do we think Jensen Button's change from year out to retirement is down to Ron Dennis going?
No.
it's possible, but I think
I think it's not a real change. It's a change in message and presentation.
Do we think it's to do with something my brother always used to say to me, which was just prepare for the worst, and if it doesn't happen, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I think that might
So
be
he's
massive.
prepared for that being his last race in Formula One, and if it isn't, wow, awesome, he gets
Yeah.
another shot. Do you know what I mean? So
And if it is, then
it is. He's done it. He's prepared for it.
and he's treated it as his last race. As I said earlier, not like the Barrichello situation where he didn't get
a
a
drive.
proper retirement.
I still think it's as good. It's as high as 50-50 chance whether he'll be in a car next year anyway.
We're back to is Alonso gonna
If that
That's
car,
going to rumble on through the winter.
even if Alonso gets to
And
that
through 2017.
Probably.
even if he jumps into that car and on the timing screens he's all of a sudden in the 5th best team, which would be a step forward for McLaren,
Yeah.
I still think there's a chance he'll go no.
He wants to win a championship.
He wants to win races, he doesn't want to score points.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to finish ahead of more than the Williams.
Yeah, so that's that's a very good example there. Williams or Force India level next year will not be good enough for Fernando Alonso.
And it's just a shame that Williams or Force India level is a step up for McLaren.
Yeah, because realistically, let's face it, if Fernando was offered the Force India drive or a Williams drive, he wouldn't take it. Like Jensen wouldn't take the Williams drive because he wants to win championships.
Yeah,
So if McLaren are that good, then it's not going to be good enough for him.
No, he went to that team, to McLaren, because that was the de facto Honda Works team, and that was going to be the team that won him races and potentially took him that third world title. It hasn't happened yet, and if it does happen, then it's going to happen pretty damn soon.
Yeah. Let's not forget as well that when Honda said they were coming back into Formula One, they had 2 years to develop the engine.
Yeah.
They also had an engine a year or 2 years of having their mechanics in the McLaren garage when they were running Mercedes engine, and in those 2 years that they had mechanics on the ground dealing with Mercedes engines, managed to do absolutely fucking nothing with the knowledge they gained.
Yeah.
They apparently they had their Honda engine. If you remember seeing that, the Honda engine on the dyno, it was putting out something ridiculous like 20 more horsepower than any other Formula One.
Yeah, that's all
engine
obviously
on the grid.
PR bullshit.
Yeah, but no, on the dyno that's fine. But then you put that in a car and give it heating issues and cooling issues, and you make it work with everything else, the systems that McLaren are putting into it, and all of a sudden that engine is no good.
Yeah, but let's face it, right? They had their grubby mitts on Mercedes engines, and they managed to put the turbo in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine how Ferrari would fucking kill for that, to have their engineers working with Mercedes engines for a full year?
Wasn't that called Spygate?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But it's Renault as well.
Not all of McLaren's problems are the engine.
No, of course they're not.
A long way from all of their problems are the engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of an infrastructure problem with McLaren, but
The car's not as good as they say it is.
No. Like I said last week, something's happened there, and they've gone down a development route that has been like detrimental to the performance of the car.
And it's Ron Dennis that's paid the price for it, because he always says everything answers to me, and he only owns a quarter of the team, and the other 75% of the owners have gone, okay, it's all your fault, off you pop.
Must admit, we gave Ron quite a hard time last week when we were talking about this situation, but realistically there's nothing to say that what has happened is going to be a good thing. We assume that getting new blood in the team will be a good thing, but we've no idea.
No, it is a complete step into the unknown.
And if it is a decision that's been made up around a boardroom table by businessmen because certain businessmen have fallen out with each other, then it might not be the best sporting decision.
True, but they have replaced Ron with someone that has got a racing as well as a business background. All right, he's not.
Yeah, but he's not Ron Dennis.
No.
So,
No, but it's whether or not McLaren will keep that data-driven approach.
I think they'll have to.
That's always been McLaren.
Yeah.
The data-driven approach. They work on the data that they're given and nothing more.
I mean, to be fair, that's Formula One, though. All teams do.
Yeah, but McLaren specifically are famed for it.
Yeah, they've got. I mean,
they were doing telemetry before anyone was doing telemetry.
But everyone does telemetry now.
Yeah,
but they were the first.
Yeah, but there was nothing wrong with that. Yeah, but like I don't know. I think
you're a data analyst at McLaren. You must be.
Yeah, but I think
I'm analysing the paint.
Yeah, I think all teams work the same as McLaren. I just think McLaren like to say how they work more, because I think they like that image.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
We spoke about the broken tile and the McLaren Technology Centre and all that.
They want the image of perfection.
Ferrari and Red Bull have racing headquarters. McLaren have a technology centre.
Yeah. But this is the thing. Like, I think the outward face of, say, Red Bull, Ferrari, and Red Bull, maybe Mercedes and McLaren. The outward face of the teams might be very different, but I bet inside they all operate very similarly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd probably see that. There is another email that we got this week from the interestingly named Nikolov Lovemore, which to be honest, there's a lot of it, and I think it's better going into detail. I would probably say next week, on next week's show, because we've already been running for over 2 hours now.
Yeah.
And I
Do
said
you know what I'd love more? Sleep.
that's why I'm saying we'll look at that next week.
Quick summary of the mail.
So, a quick summary of the mail. It was a lot to do with the race, looking back on the season in similar circumstances, comparing what happened with Lewis to
Sounds like a review message.
Monaco.
Yeah.
And I think that's one for the season review.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads us on nicely to next week.
Yeah.
Because we haven't got a race to preview.
No, we haven't.
We haven't got a season to preview.
No.
We haven't got Formula Lee to talk about.
No.
We've got a season to review.
But we've got
though.
a season to review.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of a season review, I think.
Yeah, and I think we can do it. We can do it one of two ways. We can do the back half of the championship table, and then the front half the following week, or we can do drivers one week and teams the next.
Drivers 1 week, teams the next. That's what we did last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. That seems about right.
So next week we are going to go through all the drivers, including including the two that didn't do the full season.
And the week after that, and the week after we've done those two, the third week, we might procrastinate about 2017 a little bit.
Possibly, although
Are we still going to do like an awards show at some point
I
as well?
think in 3 weeks' time we'll be getting very close to Christmas, so that's the one where we open some beers and we do the awards show as well.
The awards show, and I've also got a quiz coming as well.
Yeah.
Oh, end of term quiz.
End of term quiz. Now, Paul
Now, if it's,
and
the last
Dan.
if it's the last day of term, can we bring toys in with us?
Possibly, yeah. Why not? Now, Paul and Dan already know a little bit about it because I was speaking to them about it during the live blog yesterday before we started the live blog. I've written so far just over 20 questions, about 25-ish questions. And what I was going to do was get each of you to answer the questions and sort of see which one. But I think it's actually going to... I think I made it a little bit too difficult.
The quizzer becomes the quizzy, Paul.
So...
I'm a quizzy on Thursday nights.
So...
That's what pays for the beer.
I think what it's going to be is you three against me. Me asking the questions and seeing if you three can beat me with answers.
Okay.
Over the head, or
Yeah.
Okay.
But more right answers or more wrong answers. If you get more wrong answers, I win.
Well, you're a foot taller than me, so I have to sort of stand on a chair to beat you over the head with
Correct.
anything.
Yeah, there is that. And of course, that would be a good one for the listeners to get involved in as well. I'm not going to keep them like easy questions like, who is the world champion? Because we've just been talking about that for the last 2 hours.
That is true.
Lewis Hamilton.
Technically, until next Friday, yes.
Yeah, until the FIA give the awards out. That just leaves to say it's our last race review of the season. I just want to thank all the listeners that have joined us at any point this year.
Yeah.
This time last year we had 400 listeners an episode at the end of the season.
This year we've got significantly more.
This year you can kind of add an extra 0, multiply it by 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is incredible. We want to thank everyone that's donated to us on Patreon. We want to thank everyone who's been in touch on email, 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, on Twitter @3legs4wheels, and
Twitter.
Twitter.
At a total shunt.
You really don't listen to me when I'm talking, do you?
Sorry?
Exactly.
he's already gone to bed.
Yeah, he has, hasn't he? And thanks to everyone who's liked the Facebook page and got in touch through that as well.
Yeah.
And all the special guests we've had on the show as well.
And
Yeah.
all of our special guests. Thank you so much to Sean Kelly, Virtual Statman, for joining us a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But we're not going away.
But we aren't going away for the winter. We will be here. We'll have a week off for Christmas.
Well, we might have a week off for Christmas, but the thing is, Formula One news will break through the winter, and people need to know where to get their fix.
Yeah.
We'll be that fix.
We'll be there to help you get through the lonely, dark Christmas.
It's 116 days, I think it is, until the start of the next season.
But it's only 7 days till the next podcast.
Oh, yes.
So, on that note, we'll see you next week.
Well, we're going to give you something special, aren't we?
We're going to play out with something special?
We are going to play out with something special tonight because...
my band has just finished and released our new album. You can get it for free at the Clowns Call for Wars Bandcamp.
Which I will put a link in the description of the podcast and on the website, and it'll be on Facebook and Twitter as well.
Yeah, and you're going to now listen to If I'm Right, You'll Never Know That You Were Wrong.
Is that the title of the song, or is that your motto for life?
Bit of both, I think, isn't it?
Both, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the song.
Bye.
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 Bye bye.